Chapter 192. The voice of the island lord of Qinghu Island, Guyong, was still echoing in the sky. Tung Shan stood on the city wall and looked into the distance. He saw a figure the size of an ant leaving Qinghu Island's camp. This figure quickly dashed to a distance of about 80 zhang from the city wall. He was hugging a tube that was over 1 zhang tall. A water leak? Tung Shan frowned. In the land of the 9 prefectures, there were sundials, hourglasses, water leaks, and many other tools to measure time. The working principle of this water leak was that there was a small hole at the bottom of the hourglass. Then, the water in the hourglass would flow at a constant speed. As the water flowed, the scale iron needle floating on the water would slowly descend. When the water flowed down, the top of the scale iron needle would be level with the top of the hourglass. Once filled with water, it could flow slowly for 24 hours. Zhuge Yuanhong, the deep voice sounded again. You saw this water leak. 6 hours. You only have 6 hours. Standing on the city wall, Zhuge Yuanhong, whose white robe was fluttering, spoke for the first time. His clear voice pierced through the air. Guyong, the Gui Yuan sect has been in Jiangning County for over 1,000 years. It's not easy for you to turn the Gui Yuan sect into a piece of scorched land. It's better not to start a war to avoid harming the harmony between us. Ha! Guyong's reply was a string of laughter. The 6th and 7th ranked experts of the heavenly ranking finished a simple conversation with a distance of 3 li. In front of the camp of Qinghu Island, 13 innate experts gathered together. General Lan, who was wearing armor, laughed and said, "This Zhuge Yuanhong is still not anxious even at this point." He even said, "It's better not to start a war to avoid harming the harmony between us." What a joke. Let's see how anxious he will be after we destroy the Gui Yuan sect. The other innate experts also laughed. Their laughter was filled with confidence. Elders, do not underestimate that Zhuge Yuanhong. Guyong smiled. According to the previous plan, first, we'll work together to kill Zhuge Yuanhong. Second, we'll capture that young man named Tung Shan alive. Rest assured, Island Lord. Those inborn experts smiled and nodded. Although they were confident, they were not arrogant. Everyone, return to the main tent and rest. In 6 hours, prepare to launch an all-out attack. Guyong instructed. Actually, the reason why they had delayed for 6 hours was because the Silver Dragon Army had hurried all the way here and were rather tired. If they rested for 6 hours, their physical strength would be at its peak. The second was to let the soldiers and disciples of the Gui Yuan sect live in fear for 6 hours. Guyong's words were enough to strike fear into the hearts of many people in the Gui Yuan sect. If they spent 6 hours in fear, their morale would hit rock bottom. Tens of thousands of people were gathered on the city wall. The cold wind blew, blowing Zhuge Yuanhong's long hair. Junior Brother Pang, Zhuge Yuanhong instructed, go to the inner city and be in charge of the deployment of the troops in the inner city. Some of the troops of the Gui Yuan sect were on the city wall of Jiangning County City, while the rest were in the inner city. Yes, Sovereign. Pang Shan bowed. Sovereign, what should we do if someone flees in fear? Pang Shan asked again. Zhuge Yuanhong said indifferently, those below the rank of commandant and protector will be thrown into the dungeon. Those who resist will be put to death. Lieutenants, protectors, and those above would have their dantian broken and locked up in the dungeon if they tried to escape in the face of battle. Those who resist will be put to death as well. Yes, Pang Shan replied. In the sect, the higher one's position was, the more severe the punishment would be. Actually, when Tung Shan and the others retreated to the Gui Yuan sect yesterday, the Gui Yuan sect quickly assembled its troops. Most of the non-combatants among the outer disciples were dismissed. The core disciples, the family members of the black armored core soldiers, and those who were too weak also left the Gui Yuan sect and went to other places in the county city. The others had to face the war. Commander Tung Shan, lunch. A metal lunchbox was handed to Tung Shan. It was already past noon. Taking the lunchbox, Tung Shan opened the lid and started eating. Very quickly, he finished everything. One battle. That Tai Hall was annihilated in one night. My Gui Yuan sect. When Teng Qingshan thought of the battle between over 100,000 warriors 6 hours later, his heart trembled. He wasn't afraid for himself, but for his friends and family. In the chaotic battle, will cousin and Xiaoyu be able to survive? In the battle between thousands of soldiers and horses, even Teng Qingshan wasn't sure if he could survive, let alone Qingyu and Qinghu. When Teng Qingshan thought of this, he felt even more uneasy. Teacher, I will go to the inner city to have a look. Teng Qingshan looked at Zhuge Yuanhong. Previously, Zhuge Yuanhong had told Teng Qingshan not to be 10 zhang away from him. Zhuge Yuanhong glanced at him and said, "Go. Come back in 6 hours." Okay. Teng Qingshan nodded and ran towards the south. The inner city in Jiangning County City had 2 walls that overlapped. This was because the inner city of the Gui Yuan sect was located in the southeast area of Jiangning County City. Therefore, the eastern and southern city walls of the inner city were part of the eastern and southern city walls of the county city. In Guyong's tent in the army of Qinghu Island, a huge map was hung on the side of the tent. It was a detailed map of the entire Jiangning County. Guyong stood in front of the map and analyzed it carefully. After thousands of years, the changes are indeed great. Guyong frowned as he studied the map carefully. However, according to the map of Emperor Yu's treasure, the location of the treasure should be in this area of Jiangning County. However, after thousands of years of changes, it's really hard to find. He analyzed the geographical location carefully. Father, a voice suddenly came from outside the tent. Guyong immediately turned and smiled. "You come in." However, when his gaze swept across the square table in the tent, his smile instantly disappeared. With a cold expression, he hastily walked to the side of the square table. His gaze fell on a piece of paper on the table. He picked up the paper. "Father." Gu Shiyu walked in and looked at his father in confusion. Looking at the contents of the paper, Gu Yong's expression turned ugly. He shouted, "Shiyu, ask Elder Zhao, Elder Yuan, Elder Hu, and Elder Wen to come here." "Yes, father." Gu Shiyu was shocked. This time, among the 13 innate experts of Qinghu Island, 5 were Golden Dan innate experts. Besides Gu Yong, the other 5 were the 4 elders that Gu Yong had just mentioned. "Father, why did you suddenly summon the 4 law-enforcing elders?" Gu Shiyu didn't understand, but he felt. Something big happened. In the inner city of the Gui Yuan sect, there were 3,000 black armored core soldiers, 30,000 city guards, 4,000 core disciples, and 20,000 outer disciples. The entire inner city was filled with people. In a watchtower, there were only Zhuge Yun and Qingyu. Zhuge Yun, who was wearing a full suit of armor, held Qingyu's hand and said in a low voice, "It will be dark in 6 hours. If our Gui Yuan sect really can't withstand the battle tonight and starts to collapse, there will definitely be people who will flee. Remember, at that time, you will also mix with a large group of people and flee. You will come with me." Qingyu, who was wearing a red-scaled battle armor, said. When the red-scaled beast battle armor was brought back, the sovereign gave Teng Qingshan 2 sets. These 2 sets were given by Teng Qingshan to his cousin, Teng Qinghu, and his sister, Qingyu. "Stop fooling around," Zhuge Yun shouted angrily. Qingyu froze. Zhuge Yun was a very optimistic person and rarely used such a tone. "Qingyu." Zhuge Yun's eyes widened and were bloodshot. "To tell you the truth, I am afraid when I think about what will happen in 6 hours. In one night, Tai Hall will be destroyed in just one night. Even if our Gui Yuan sect is lucky enough to survive, there will definitely be a lot of deaths. I am the young sovereign. I am the son of Zhuge Yuanhong. I can't escape. And you, Qingyu, I don't want to see you die. Do you understand?" Qingyu's eyes turned red as she shook her head and said, "No. If we die together." "Qingyu, little Yun." A voice sounded. The 2 turned their heads and saw a black figure standing at the watchtower's entrance. "Brother," Qingyu hastily shouted. "Little Yun." Teng Qingshan stared at Zhuge Yun and said, "Tonight, many people will die. I will fight with the men of Qinghu Island in the outer city. In the sect's rules, my sister can leave. However, because of you, she insisted on defending the city with you. Therefore, you must protect her. Among the core disciples, those who entered the sect for a short period of time could leave. As for Qingyu, she entered the Gui Yuan sect for about half a year, which was too short. She could leave the Gui Yuan sect. However, because of Zhuge Yun, Qingyu refused to leave alone. Qingyu will live well. I promise. Zhuge Yun gritted his teeth and said. Tung Qingshan looked at him, and then turned to look at Qingyu. You are very stubborn. Tung Qingshan sighed. Thinking of his sister in danger, Tung Qingshan was really unwilling. He even wanted to take his sister out by force. However, last night his sister's determined eyes made him change his mind. If it was him and Kitten, they would probably not separate even before death. Brother, Qingyu's voice was very low. Tung Qingshan stretched out his hand and touched Qingyu's head, just like when they were young. Remember, Liv? Tung Qingshan's eyes were a little red. Brother, let's have breakfast together tomorrow. Qingyu couldn't help but cry. Tung Qingshan looked at Zhuge Yun and then at his sister. Okay, let's have breakfast together tomorrow. Tung Qingshan immediately turned and left. Perhaps this would be the last time he would see his sister. However, life is a process of choice. Choose to leave your lover and save your life, or choose to live and die with your lover. Tung Qingshan respected his sister's choice. Fight, fight. Tung Qingshan left the inner city and returned to the outer city. Time passed. The sky darkened very early in the winter. After 4 hours, the sky was completely dark. On the city wall, everyone held their weapons tightly. It will be 6 hours soon. Tung Qingshan looked at the needle of the hourglass. Suddenly, he heard footsteps. Tung Qingshan turned his head and saw his cousin, Qinghu, standing beside him. Cousin, if I didn't bring you to Gui Yuan sect, you might be very happy in Tangjia village. You might even have a wife and a son. Do you regret it? Tung Qingshan said in a low voice. Tung Qinghu grinned. Why are you talking about this? None of the men in Tangjia village are afraid of death. However, I do regret not getting married. If I died, the family line would be broken. However, I, Tung Qinghu, have become a centurion of the Black Armored Corps. It's better than being an ordinary villager for the rest of my life. Mother ***, tonight I will kill. Tung Qingshan patted Qinghu's shoulder and didn't say anything. Tung Qingshan's gaze fell on the hourglass below. 6 hours are up. Tung Qingshan's pupils shrank. Dong, dong, dong. Heavy sounds that were like drums pounding on people's hearts resounded. 3 li below the city, Qinghu Island's barracks immediately became noisy. On the walls of Jiangning County City, the soldiers held their weapons tightly. Mother ***. Tung Qinghu gritted his teeth and stared into the distance. Tung Qingshan held his reincarnation spear and stared into the distance. Chapter 193. The Gui Yuan sect's soldiers were standing on the city wall, and there was no end to them. The cold swords and spears in their hands reflected a cold light in the dark night. Their bloodshot eyes were filled with determination and madness. For their Gui Yuan sect, they would fight to the death. Fight! Fight! Tung Qingshan frowned. 3 li away, the silver dragon soldiers of Qinghu Island were galloping on their war horses. 10,000 horses galloping. The earth trembled. What are they doing? Are they going to crash into the city wall on their war horses? Tung Qingshan was confused. He wasn't the only one who was confused. Many people of the Gui Yuan sect were confused as well. They saw a great number of silver dragon soldiers galloping on their war horses suddenly. They were galloping towards the northwest direction. There were a few forks on the official road outside the east gate of Jiangning County City. One was to head south towards Riversource City, Yinjiang City, and so on. The other led to the north, all the way to Shuyang County. One of them headed northwest, bypassing Jiangning County City before heading west towards East City, Huafeng City, and so on. Are they going to attack the north gate? Tung Qingshan was shocked. If they bypassed the north gate, they could attack the north gate, or even the West Gate. Among the 4 gates of Jiangning County City, the East Gate was the most heavily guarded. Commander Zhang, lead your 1,500 Black Armor Corps to support the North Gate. Zhuge Yuanhong shouted. Yes. Zhang Feng immediately led his 1,500 Black Armor Corps and rushed towards the North Gate. As the great number of soldiers galloped towards the northwest direction, the 13 innate experts of Qing, Hu Island, also rode their war horses and followed the army. These 13 people are also rushing towards the North Gate. It seems like they are going to attack the North Gate. Could it be that they have planted spies at the North Gate? Tung Qingshan was puzzled. Zhuge Yuanhong, who was beside him, immediately ordered, Elder Feng, lead 10,000 city guards and follow me to the North Gate. With a command, the bustling crowd quickly rushed over. The 3 law enforcement elders, including Tung Qingshan, also rushed to the North City Gate with Zhuge Yuanhong. Tung Qingshan and the others ran along the city walls, while the other party ran along the road outside the city. The official road outside the city required a lot of detours. Moreover, the speed of an innate ranker's Qinggong was much faster than that of a warhorse. At night, at the North Gate of Jiangning County City, torches were stuck on top of the city wall. There were originally 5,000 city guards guarding the area. The 4 innate rankers of the Gui Yuan sect arrived at the North City Gate in no time. Teacher, Qinghu Island wants to attack the North City Gate. However, they had 13 inborn experts. To think that they would do such a thing. Did they plan a spy at the North Gate? Tung Qingshan asked worriedly. Just watch. Zhuge Yuanhong was as calm and collected as ever. Finally, the vanguard of Qinghu Island's army arrived at the forked road 2 li away from the northern city gate. However, the strange thing was they didn't turn and run toward the city gate. Instead, they continued to run along the official road towards the west. They want to attack the West City Gate. Yin Maqian frowned. The 3 law-enforcing elders were puzzled. What was Qinghu Island planning? We only need to keep an eye on the 13 innate rankers, Zhuge Yuanhong said with a smile. Soon, he saw Gu Yong and a group of people following the army on their war horses. To the West City Gate, Zhuge Yuanhong ordered. Feng Er, bring your men and follow me to the West City Gate. Zhang Feng and his 1,500 soldiers, who had just rushed from the East City Gate to the North City Gate, could only continue to run towards the West City Gate. At the West City Gate of Jiangning County City, the soldiers of the Black Armored Corps had great endurance. Every one of them wore heavy armor. F*CK, they made us run such a long way. Later, we must kill all these sons of B*cheese. Some of the Black Armored Corps soldiers were burning with anger. Qinghu Island's army was approaching, and everyone was already worried. However, although they were worried, none of the Black Armored Corps soldiers were afraid. If they were to die, they would die on the battlefield. However, who would have thought that after 6 hours, the men of Qinghu Island actually ran a big circle from the East City Gate to the West City Gate? Wasn't this toying with them? Tung Qingshan stood on top of the city wall and looked into the distance. The leading soldiers of Qinghu Island had already rushed to the crossroads. Clop, 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 clop. The dense sounds of horse hooves caused the earth to tremble. The group of Silver Dragon soldiers actually pulled back the reins and galloped towards the west. What were they playing? Tung Qingshan was dumbfounded. They're still running west. Commander Zhang Feng, who was running from behind, was also shocked when he saw this. Jiangning County City was only so big. They had already reached the West City Gate, and they were still running west. Rumble, the army of thousands of men and horses galloped towards the west. On top of the city wall of Jiangning County, the soldiers who were prepared to fight to the death were all shocked. That's strange. Yin Maqian laughed in surprise. That Gu Yong even said something fierce at noon. He said that he would burn the Gui Yuan sect to the ground in 6 hours. But what are they doing now? They ran from the East City Gate to the West City Gate and are still running west. Could it be that they're preparing to run 10 li away, then turn back and fight with us? If this was really the case, then the men of Qinghu Island must be crazy. That's really strange. The cold middle-aged man, who had been wearing a cold face, also smiled. Let's see which direction the 13 innate experts are going. A smile also appeared on Zhuge Yuanhong's face. Finally, the middle part of the endless army of Qing Hu Island dashed to the crossroads outside the city. Gu Yong and the other 13 innate experts were together, each of them riding their horses towards the west. If they went further west, they would be in the direction of Yi City and Huafeng City. Gu Yong, a clear voice echoed between heaven and earth. Zhuge Yuanhong stood on top of the city wall with a smile on his face. Forgive me, Zhuge Yuanhong, but I won't see you off. Haha, Zhuge Yuanhong, I underestimated you. Gu Yong's deep voice also echoed in the sky. The 13 innate experts quickly disappeared from sight, and a large number of soldiers of Qing Hu Island dashed towards the west. On the west city wall, Tung Qingshan, Elder Yin, Elder Zhu, Commander Zhongfeng, and many soldiers of the Black Armored Corps all looked at Sovereign Zhuge Yuanhong. Everyone was stunned. They retreated. The army of Qing Hu Island retreated without attacking. And from the conversation just now, as long as one wasn't stupid, anyone who heard Zhuge Yuanhong, I underestimated you, could probably guess that. Qing Hu Island mobilized a large army to suppress them. But after saying some fierce words, they retreated dejectedly. It definitely had something to do with Sovereign Zhuge Yuanhong. Look at all of you. Are you all stunned? Zhuge Yuanhong laughed. Zhuge Yuanhong, who had been calm the whole day, finally laughed heartily at this time. City guards, continue to keep watch on the city wall tonight. In a moment, there will be meat and wine sent up. Everyone, eat and drink to your heart's content. Of course, pay attention to the men of Qing Hu Island and see if they come back. Yes, Sovereign. The guards all cheered. All soldiers of the Black Armored Corps returned to the inner city. Zhuge Yuanhong laughed and said, "Tonight, our Gue Yuan sect will celebrate." Immediately, the people on the city wall cheered. Tonight, the 6,000 soldiers of the Black Armored Corps, over 10,000 core disciples, and tens of thousands of outer disciples were celebrating wildly. Everyone was very excited after coming back from the gates of hell. Although everyone was prepared to fight to the death, it would be better if they could protect the Gue Yuan sect without fighting. My good brothers, friends, and family won't have to die. Tung Qingshan was also very happy. Without losing a single soldier, the Gue Yuan sect would be safe. Master Tian Dan and his good brothers of the Black Armored Corps and his own family wouldn't have to die. Inside the Gue Yuan sect, the light from the torches illuminated the entire sect. Lanterns and torches could be seen everywhere, making the place very lively. It was even more joyous than the annual sacrifice. The Gue Yuan sect would be safe, and every disciple was very excited. Haha, didn't Gu Yong, the island lord of Qing Hu Island, say arrogantly that he would destroy the Gue Yuan sect in 6 hours? Yes, Gu Yong was very arrogant, but in the end, he still left with his tail between his legs. Our sovereign is the best. He didn't do anything, but he scared Qing Hu Island away. The disciples of the Gue Yuan sect were celebrating in joy. Brother, little Yu, Tung Qingshan and his sister, Qing Yu, hugged each other tightly. Their family was together, and they could be happy together. It was really good. It's all because of Master that no one died. Tung Qingshan looked into the distance and saw the sovereign, Zhuge Yuanhong, who was still dressed in a white cloak and chatting with some elders. That Gu Yong, the island lord of Qing Hu Island, has mobilized a large number of troops to besiege the city. He even threatened us. It was definitely not an act. But why did he run west in the end? Why didn't he fight? What did Master do to make 13 innate experts choose to retreat without a fight? Tung Qingshan's heart was filled with endless questions. While the Gue Yuan sect was celebrating, the men of Qing Hu Island were advancing silently in the dark. The 13 innate experts gathered together. What a shame. Qing Hu Island mobilized a large force and threatened us, but in the end, they retreated without a fight. I'm afraid they will become the laughingstock of the world. The silver-haired handsome young man, Zhao Danshan, said with hatred. Gu Yong, who was dressed in a yellow cloak, shook his head and sighed. I underestimated Zhuge Yuanhong and the Gue Yuan sect. That Zhuge Yuanhong really broke through the Golden Dan innate realm and reached the mysterious emptiness realm? The middle-aged man, elder who, still couldn't believe it. Gu Yong sighed. I was looking at the map in the big tent. Before I looked at the map, that piece of paper wasn't on the table. In just a short while, this piece of paper appeared on the table. I was the only one in the big tent. To be able to place a piece of paper on the table without me noticing, and to even leave quietly, it's impossible. This strength, he definitely broke through the Golden Dan innate realm. Gu Yong sighed. So, I don't doubt that the paper said both sides suffered. For more than 1,000 years, no one in the Gue Yuan sect broke through the Golden Dan innate realm. These innate experts all felt very heavy. For more than 1,000 years, no one in the Gue Yuan sect was able to break through the Golden Dan innate realm. Could it be that someone in this generation of the Gue Yuan sect was able to break through? Don't think too much. Gu Yong said indifferently. We have to admit that the Gue Yuan sect is strong. Qinghu Island also gained a lot from annihilating Tai Hall. We found a treasure map of Emperor Yu's treasure. If we can get Emperor Yu's treasure, Qinghu Island might be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with Mani Temple one day. According to the geographical changes in the past thousands of years, I carefully checked and finally determined that the location of Emperor Yu's treasure should be in the Great Yin Mountain of Yi City in Jiangning County. Chapter 194. Jiangning County City, Gue Yuan Sect. After the hustle and bustle, it became quiet. It was already late at night, and the Gue Yuan Sect was pitch black. Occasionally, there would be a few scattered lights. The Gue Yuan Sect was so quiet. It was impossible to tell that the Gue Yuan Sect was facing a crisis of extermination not long ago. In Zhuge Yuanhong's study room, a white candle emitted a faint light, enveloping the study room in a faint halo. For people were gathered in the study room, Zhuge Yuanhong and 3 law enforcing elders. Teacher, why are you looking for us? Tung Qingshan was puzzled. Today was really enjoyable. Elder Yin Matian's entire body reeked of alcohol, and his face was flushed red. I never dreamed that Gu Yong would actually lead his Qinghu Island's army and escape with their tails between their legs without attacking. So enjoyable. The only thing that didn't make him happy today was those spineless things. There were actually 2 protectors and 1 commandant who wanted to escape before the battle even started. The cold-looking middle-aged man at the side nodded. These people should be killed. According to the sovereign's order, anyone with a rank of protector, commandant, or even higher would have their dantian broken and be locked in the dungeon if they escaped. If they resisted, they would be sentenced to death. As for those below the rank of protector and commandant, if they escaped, they would be locked in the dungeon. If they resisted, they would also be sentenced to death. However, the protectors, commandant, elders, and many others knew that Tai Hall was exterminated, so they were naturally terrified. This is unavoidable. Zhuge Yuanhong smiled and said, Our Gue Yuan sect has not faced such a dangerous situation for a long time. Many protectors, commandant, and elders have not experienced such a dangerous situation. When they have to make a choice between death and survival with the sect, it is not strange that they choose to keep their lives. Tung Qingshan nodded and said, Only in danger can we see a person's heart. You are right. Zhuge Yuanhong looked at Tung Qingshan and asked, Qingshan, did you kill Tai Wanmao of Qinghu Island in Yanjiang City? Tung Qingshan nodded. Qingshan killed Tai Wanmao in just 3 moves in front of the formation. Yin Matian praised. Qingshan's spear technique is truly powerful. Zhuge Yuanhong smiled and said, It seems that Qinghu Island already knows that Qingshan has reached the innate realm. Qingshan, from now on, you have to be wary of the people of Qinghu Island. Beware of them. Tung Qingshan's heart skipped a beat. Would the men of Qinghu Island kill him? The grave and stern middle-aged man also said coldly, Qingshan, sovereign is right. You must be alert. That Gu Yong of Qinghu Island is an unscrupulous person. Now in Yangzhou, only Qinghu Island and my Gue Yuan sect are left. The existence of our Gue Yuan sect is like a fishbone stuck in their throat. And you are a 17-year-old innate expert. In their eyes, you are a bigger threat than me. Qing Shan, Elder and I is right. Zhuge Yuan Hong said solemnly. Of course, you are now an emptiness Dan innate expert. They're not in a hurry. If you improve in the future, it will be even more shocking. The men of Qinghu Island will probably play tricks in the dark. Yangzhou, one of the 9 prefectures. Now, only Qinghu Island and Gue Yuan sect were left. The relationship between the two could be imagined. Even if they seemed peaceful on the surface, they would definitely want to destroy each other secretly. Teacher, I understand. Tung Qingshan nodded. The current him was not a threat to Qinghu Island. No matter how talented he was only an emptiness Dan innate expert. Qinghu Island could easily send some innate experts to kill him. However, in a few decades, he would be a threat. However, the current Qinghu Island doesn't dare to offend Gue Yuan sect. Zhuge Yuan Hong said. Plus, you are only an emptiness Dan innate expert now. They are not in a hurry. They will probably start to act when you reach the true Dan innate expert. If you reach the golden Dan innate expert, Qinghu Island will not be able to bear it. Zhuge Yuan Hong smiled. Of course, assassinating the genius disciple of the other party. This is a very embarrassing thing. As one of the 8 supreme sects, they usually won't do it. However, if you cultivate at an astonishing speed in the future, they will have no choice but to do it. Tung Qingshan also understood this. Some people cultivate fast at the beginning, but later on, their cultivation slows down. If Tung Qingshan reached the true Dan innate expert at the age of 50 and the golden Dan innate expert at the age of 100, Qinghu Island would not treat Tung Qingshan as a great threat. It was very embarrassing to assassinate the genius disciple of the other party. However, the reputation of Qinghu Island was very important. To force them to shamelessly assassinate. Only Tung Qingshan's cultivation speed was really astonishing. For example, he reached the true Dan innate expert at the age of 20 and the golden Dan innate expert at the age of 30. If Tung Qingshan's cultivation speed was so fast, Qinghu Island would have to deal with Tung Qingshan no matter how shameless they were. Of course, the Gue Yuan sect would also protect Tung Qingshan. This is also a training for you. Zhuge Yuan Hong smiled and said, with the protection of the Gue Yuan sect, the occasional assassinations will be beneficial to your cultivation. Only in battles of life and death could one's state of mind be tempered, and it would be easier to break through the realm. Teacher, you said that Qinghu Island does not dare to offend Gue Yuan sect? Tung Qingshan said. Good question, Qingshan. I'm also confused, Sovereign. Yin Matian also stared at Zhuge Yuan Hong. What method did you use today? They were so scared that they did not dare to fight and ran away. The cold-looking middle-aged man, Elder and I, also stared at the Sovereign in confusion. The 3 law-enforcing elders did not know. This secret should only be known by the Sovereign. Zhuge Yuan Hong glanced at the 3 and said, You guys have probably guessed it. I will tell you. The Gue Yuan sect. Zhuge Yuan Hong said confidently, has an emptiness realm expert. Emptiness realm. Elder Yin and Elder and I took a deep breath. They were both surprised and happy. Emptiness realm? Tung Qingshan was confused. Teacher, what is the emptiness realm? Tung Qingshan asked. Elder Yin said in surprise, Qingshan, you don't know? Tung Qingshan shook his head. Qingshan cultivates the dark moon spear technique. Zhuge Yuan Hong explained, the 2 of you cultivate the Heaven Class Secret Codex. The last page of the Heaven Class Secret Codex has a description of the emptiness realm. Qingshan's Dark Moon Spear technique is an Earth Class Secret Codex, and it only talks about the Golden Dan of the innate realm. Elder Yin and Elder Ni suddenly understood. Tung Qingshan finally understood. the heaven-class secret codex, described the emptiness realm. Qing Shan is one of the 8 supreme sects in the world. Among them, Mani Temple is a Buddhist sect that cultivates Sarara and pursues the Arhat and Bodhisattva realm. As for the other 7 supreme sects, they cultivate essence into Qi, Qi into spirit, and spirit into emptiness. Among them, cultivating essence into Qi is the postliminary realm. Cultivating Qi into spirit is the innate realm. As for spirit into emptiness, it is the emptiness realm. Tung Qing Shan immediately understood. Qing Shan, didn't you ask me what realm the demonic monk Xiang Fanshan from 600 years ago was in? He is an emptiness realm expert, Zhuge Yuanhong said. Tung Qing Shan still remembered. His teacher said that the demonic monk Xiang Fanshan of Mani Temple was once invincible under the heavens. An emptiness realm expert is invincible under the heavens? Tung Qing Shan said in surprise. If my Gue Yuan sect has an emptiness realm expert, then Elder and I interrupted, although there are very few emptiness realm experts in the world. It is impossible for there to be only 1 or 2. Otherwise, wouldn't an emptiness realm expert be able to unify the world? It is said that the 8 supreme sects in the land of the 9 prefectures. Every sect should have an emptiness realm expert. Zhuge Yuanhong hastily said, Qing Shan, remember, this is just a rumor. Among the 8 supreme sects, only the Mani Temple, the Ying family, and the Emperor Yu's Hall were created by the 3 omnipotent experts. The other 5 supreme sects were created by the emptiness realm experts. As for the emptiness realm, it is too difficult to reach. Therefore, it is hard to say if there is an emptiness realm expert in each of the 8 supreme sects. Tung Qing Shan frowned and asked, is this a secret? An innate expert has a lifespan of 200 years. An emptiness realm expert has a lifespan of 500 years. No one can live forever. Zhuge Yuanhong said, once one reaches the emptiness realm, he can live up to 500 years old. Once the emptiness realm experts of the 8 supreme sects die of old age, before a new emptiness realm expert is born, it is the most dangerous time. Tung Qing Shan suddenly understood. An emptiness realm expert was equivalent to a nuclear bomb in his previous life. If a country had a nuclear bomb, it could deter other countries and make others not dare to attack it. However, without a nuclear bomb, the country would be bullied. Therefore, it is best to keep the existence of an emptiness realm expert a secret. Zhuge Yuanhong smiled and said, for example now, that Guyong found out that there's an emptiness realm expert in our Gue Yuan sect. Then, for at least a few hundred years, they won't dare to touch us. Because the revenge of an emptiness realm expert is terrifying. Moreover, with the guidance of an emptiness realm expert, then, in a few hundred years, another emptiness realm expert will appear in the sect. The possibility is much higher. This is also the reason why the 8 supreme sects are so deeply rooted. When Tung Qing Shan heard this, he sighed inwardly. An emptiness realm expert was the absolute trump card of a sect. With an emptiness realm expert, no one would dare to provoke them. No wonder Qing Hu Island fled with their tails between their legs. However, an emptiness realm expert could live up to 500 years. It was rumored that each of the 8 supreme sects in the land of the 9 prefectures had an emptiness realm expert. This was just a rumor. Maybe there is a hollow radish in the 8 supreme sects. Tung Qing Shan heaved a sigh of relief. No wonder teacher was not anxious at all. He had such a trump card. The next morning, at the foot of the Great Yin Mountain in East City, the army of Qing Hu Island, which had traveled for an entire night, was camped at the foot of the Great Yin Mountain. The camp stretched for a few li, and the island lord, Guyong, was in the big tent. Island lord, this Emperor Yu's map is from thousands of years ago. After so many years, the terrain has changed too much. It will be difficult to find Emperor Yu's treasure. The 13 innate experts stood in front of the few maps and carefully compared them. Among these maps, the oldest one was only a map from 2,000 years ago. Moreover, it was copied from a stone tablet. Guyong said in a deep voice, The location of the treasure on Emperor Yu's treasure map should be in the lake. Moreover, according to research, the Great Yin Mountain was actually two mountain ranges separated by a great lake a long time ago. Unexpectedly, after thousands of years, the Great Lake disappeared and the two mountain ranges merged into one. The treasure was in the lake, and the location of the lake should be the current Great Yin Mountain. But now, there was only a mountain here. There was no lake. Everyone, how do you think we should find Emperor Yu's treasure? Guyong swept a glance at the other 12 innate experts. P.S. Today is Grandpa Tomato's 80th birthday. We ate dinner very late, and the first one was even later. I wish my grandpa happiness is as boundless as the East Sea and as long as the South Mountain. 80 years old. It is a joyous event if a person can live to 80 years old. Chapter 195. The silver-haired, handsome young man, Zhao Danshan, frowned. The lake must be covered by the mountain. Since Emperor Yu's treasure is at the bottom of the lake, it must be deep under the Great Yin Mountain. Martial uncle, Emperor Yu's treasure must be under the mountain. This is certain. However, the Great Yin Mountain is over 100 li from the north to the south. Even if Emperor Yu were alive, he wouldn't be able to turn the entire mountain upside down. Elder Hu shook his head. The 13 innate experts instantly fell silent. Ever since they guessed that Gui Yuan sect had an emptiness realm expert, they felt pressured. A sect with an emptiness realm expert was in Yangzhou, just like Qinghu Island. This was a great threat. Although there were countless warriors in the land of the 9 prefectures, the 8 supreme sects also had many innate experts who were the pillars of the sections. However, an emptiness realm expert, as long as there was one, the sect wouldn't be destroyed. In the entire land of the 9 prefectures, there were probably only 10 emptiness realm experts. Who would have thought that one would appear in Gui Yuan's sect? Therefore, Gu Yong and the others were even more eager to obtain Emperor Yu's treasure. Island Lord, the purple-cloaked woman said, the people who are most familiar with the Great Yin Mountain are the mountain people, especially the mountain people who rely on hunting for a living. They often enter the mountain and are very familiar with the Great Yin Mountain. If we use them, we can probably find Emperor Yu's treasure quickly. Gu Yong's eyes brightened as he praised. This is a good idea. Yes, using the mountain people to find Emperor Yu's treasure is a good idea. Zhao Danshan nodded. Junior Marshal Brotherlawn, send the order immediately. Order the Silver Dragon Army to capture more mountain people. Remember, they often enter the mountain. Gu Yong ordered. Yes, Island Lord. The order was quickly passed down. The 100-man teams of the Silver Dragon Army headed south or north. In short, they followed the foot of the Great Yin Mountain and searched for a mountain village. Jia! Over 100 Silver Dragon soldiers were galloping on their war horses. The heavy armors of these soldiers were all black heavy armors that were inlaid with silver patterns. The sight of over 100 heavily armored soldiers galloping at high speed was enough to frighten the people on the public road. There's a village in front. Go! The leader shouted coldly. Yes, young Island Lord. More than 100 riders rushed forward quickly. The heavy sound of hooves had already alerted the villagers in the villa. Many of the men in the villa were holding long spears with red tassels. The main gate of the villa was tightly shut. Oof. The one at the forefront was the young island master, Gu Shiyu. His gaze turned cold, and the black spear in his hand turned into a black afterimage. Puff! The tip of the spear instantly pierced through the latch of the manor's gate, and then the mount directly smashed the gate open. Everyone, get out of the way! The clansmen in the villa hurriedly dodged. Nay. Only after the hundreds of Silver Dragon cavalrymen charged into the spacious training field of the villa did they stop their horses. Gu Shiyu's gaze swept across the terrified villagers, and he shouted coldly, "Get your tribe leader to come here." Sir. Very quickly, a sturdy man dressed in a beast skin robe with messy hair and an iron spear in his hand walked out from the crowd and said respectfully, "What orders does Lord have for our Thai family village? Listen to me carefully. Get the 3 best hunters in your village to come out and come with us. Gu Shiyu's gaze was cold, and his voice was icy cold. Remember the 3 best hunters. If we find out that you're lying, Qinghu Island can destroy your small village in the time it takes to drink a cup of tea. Many of the villagers in the training field were so scared that their faces turned pale. The children didn't even dare to make a sound. Qinghu Island? The chief of Tai family village was shocked. Seeing the war horses and heavy armor of the approaching people, the chief realized that the approaching people were not something the White Horse Gang could compare to. He had seen the White Horse Gang's White Horse Battalion before. Whether it was the war horses, heavy armor, or the imposing manner, they were all incomparable to the people in front of him. Destroying their village in the time it takes to drink a cup of tea was indeed enough. Lords of Qinghu Island, it is our honor to look up to the men of Tai family village. Third brother, Huzi Tai 2, the 3 of you, follow the lords of Qinghu Island. The chief immediately said. Immediately, 3 sturdy men walked out. Gu Shiyu swept his gaze across them. The 3 of you, ride the war horses with my subordinates. Quickly, get on the horses. Gu Shiyu shouted. Although the 3 hunters were cautious, they still quickly rode the war horses with the 3 silver dragon soldiers. Let's go. Gu Shiyu turned his horse around and shouted. Immediately, over 100 riders galloped away and quickly disappeared at the end of the official road. Only the mountain people were left to worry about their 3 clansmen. However, there was nothing they could do. Living in this chaotic world, it was already good enough for their clansmen to survive. Gu Shiyu and his group ran along the foot of the Great Yin Mountain towards the northwest direction. Along the way, they had already captured 27 men. They took 3 men from each village. On the official road, the 27 men on their war horses were all very nervous. These were all men with guts and guts. However, when they heard the name Qinghu Island, who wouldn't be afraid? In their eyes, the Gui Yuan sect was the sky of Jiangning County. It could be said to be the supreme existence. As for Qinghu Island, it was a great sect that was much stronger than the Gui Yuan sect. Not to mention killing them. Even killing the powerful White Horse Gang in their eyes would be as easy as killing an ant. In front of the men of Qinghu Island, these brave men could only listen obediently. Stop! Gu Shiyu shouted loudly. Immediately, over 100 riders quickly stopped. Gu Shiyu turned his head and looked at the cautious men. Let me ask you, at the foot of the Great Yin Mountain, which village has the most powerful hunters? Each of the men looked at each other. Speak. Gu Shiyu's face turned cold. Within a radius of 10 li, the most powerful hunters are obviously the hunters of Tongjia village. Finally, a lean man opened his mouth and said, many of our hunting squads don't dare to go too deep into the Great Yin Mountain. However, the hunters of Tongjia village dare to go anywhere in the Great Yin Mountain. The bald man wearing a beast skin robe at the side hastily said, the men of Tongjia village are the bravest men within a radius of 10 li. In the past, thousands of mounted gangsters attacked, but they were chased away by Tongjia village. Even the White Horse Gang doesn't dare to take the annual tribute from Tongjia village. Each of the men immediately began to speak. It was very obvious that their tone contained admiration and envy towards Tongjia village. Tongjia village has produced an amazing hero called Tung Qingshan. He is currently the commander of the Black Armored Corps of the Gui Yuan sect. He is an amazing person. Back then, when he was only 10 years old, Tung Qingshan was able to kill wolves in the Great Yin Mountain as if he was mowing grass. When mentioning Tongjia village, it was necessary to mention Tung Qingshan. Gu Shiyu frowned and immediately revealed a smile as he thought to himself, Tongjia village. Tung Qingshan. This Tung Qingshan really came from a village in East City. I didn't expect to meet him so coincidentally. Gu Shiyu knew a lot about Tung Qingshan. You guys lead the way to Tongjia village, Gu Shiyu said. My lord, that is the hometown of the commander of the Black Armored Corps. The men all looked towards Gu Shiyu. I asked you guys to lead the way, Gu Shiyu shouted. Yes. The men didn't dare to resist. As the horses galloped, Gu Shiyu looked around at the scenery of the mountains and farmland. Tung Qingshan grew up in this place. Gu Shiyu thought to himself, a stinking brat who came from a remote and desolate mountain. In the past, Gu Shiyu still had a bit of confidence when facing Tung Qingshan. However, now that he knew that Tung Qingshan had reached the innate realm, Gu Shiyu was filled with jealousy. He grew up in a poor village, entered the Gui Yuan sect at the age of 16, and reached the innate realm at the age of 17. Gu Shiyu couldn't understand. Gu Shiyu didn't know. Perhaps he wanted to be famous throughout the world. However, Tung Qingshan was different from him. Tung Qingshan's first goal was to let the people of his hometown, Tungjia Village, live a good life. If he wanted to ensure that this good life would continue, he needed to become stronger. This was because he had more than 2,000 clansmen behind him. His second goal was to pursue the peak. Tungjia Village was the largest village within a radius of 10 li. In this winter, a group of strong men only wore unlined clothes, and some were even bare-chested. Each and every one of them was constantly practicing the tiger fist that Tung Qingshan had passed down. They also realized that practicing the spear for a long time would be tiring. However, when practicing the tiger fist, once they got the feeling, the more they practiced, the stronger they became. Now, in Tungjia Village, there was a group of men with the strength of 1,000 jin. Tungjia Village Weapon Shop. After the expansion, the weapon shop could allow 10 blacksmiths to forge weapons at the same time. Steady. Jin, when you swing the iron hammer, the first thing you must do is steady. Don't ask for speed. Every swing must be steady. Tung Yongfan wore unlined clothes, and with his hands behind his back, he walked between the iron furnaces and scolded them. The entire weapon shop was in full swing. There were more than 20 people in the weapon shop. Stop! Tung Yongfan suddenly shouted. The apprentices in the weapon shop, who were pumping bellows, forging iron, and moving materials, suddenly quieted down. With this silence, they all felt the ground tremble slightly. The sound of horse hooves. The sound of horse hooves is so heavy that I can feel the ground tremble. That warhorse must be carrying a lot of weight, and its speed is also fast. Tung Yongfan frowned. You guys stay here. I will go out and take a look. Tung Yongfan extended his hand, grabbed a Damascus steel spear, and strode out. Yes, teacher. Not long after Tung Yongfan walked out of the weapon shop, a young man rushed over from afar and anxiously shouted, Chief, there's a group of people outside. Looking at the war horses and heavy armor, they are not any weaker than Brother Qingshan's Black Armored Corps. However, they don't look like the Black Armored Corps. Now that Tungjia Village had stabilized and the old chief, Tung Yunlong, was enjoying a comfortable life, Tung Yongfan was the next chief. Tung Yongfan's son was the commander of the Black Armored Corps, and he himself was the #1 blacksmith. After mastering the Tiger Fist, his strength became even more amazing. Tung Yongfan became the chief, and everyone trusted him. They don't look like the Black Armored Corps? Let's go. Tung Yongfan felt that something was wrong and immediately rushed to the training field. Chapter 196. In the training field of Tungjia Village, the men who had just finished practicing the Tiger Fist had steam rising from their bodies. After the heavy snowfall, the cold river water had frozen. However, the men of Tungjia Village were obviously very strong. They held their red-tasseled spears and stared at the outsiders in the center of the training field. Over 100 heavy cavalrymen. Yes, not bad. Gu Shiyu sat high on his warhorse and swept his gaze over the men of the Tung clan. He then swept his gaze over the frightened and worried women and children. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile as he said, as expected of a #1 village within a radius of 10 li. To be bare-chested in the middle of winter. Not bad. Although Gu Shiyu said this, he had never looked down on these barbarians. As the young master of Qinghu Island, he could turn a village into scorched earth with just one word. If it was an ordinary village, he could slaughter it if he wanted to. However, this was Tung Qingshan's hometown. Once this spread, People would say that Gu Shiyu was jealous of Tung Qingshan and took his anger out on Tung Qingshan's clansmen. He would be laughed at by the world. Family members should not be harmed. This was a rule that warriors believed in. If there was a grudge, one must take revenge. No matter how many people one killed, the world would not say anything. Tung Qingshan actually grew up in such a barbaric and poor place? Gu Shiyu thought to himself. At this moment, the clansmen of Tung Jia village rushed out from the alleys. "My lord," an aged and deep voice rang out. Gu Shiyu turned his head and saw a silver-haired, sturdy old man. It was the old chief of Tung Jia village, Tung Yunlong. At this moment, Tung Yongfan finally arrived and ran to Tung Yunlong's side. "Master," Tung Yongfan said in a low voice. Tung Yunlong gave Tung Yongfan a look. Tung Yongfan had just become the chief. In the past, Tung Yunlong was the one who dealt with important matters. "I don't know why you have come to Tung Jia village. If you have any orders, the clansmen of Tung Jia village will do their best," Tung Yunlong said with a smile. This old man who had lived in a chaotic world for his whole life could see that the heavy cavalrymen in front of him were not any weaker than the Black Armored Corps. Therefore, he didn't dare to have any hopes. "You are the chief?" Gu Shiyu looked at Tung Yunlong. Exactly. Tung Yunlong's body was stuck in front of his disciple, Tung Yongfan. Tung Yongfan's heart was anxious. He knew that at this time, the patriarch would be the first to be unlucky. Tung Yunlong rushed to say that he was the clan leader for his own good. "Listen up." Gu Shiyu looked disdainfully at the group of people below and said, "Your Tung Jia village will choose 3 of the best hunters and temporarily listen to Qing Hu Island's orders. Dare I ask, my lord, if the 3 of us go, what will we do?" Tung Yunlong asked. "Shut up." Gu Shiyu scolded as a cold light flashed in his eyes. "You can only listen to me obediently. You're not allowed to ask anything unless I tell you to. If you ask me again, I don't mind killing some people." The group of Silver Dragon soldiers behind Gu Shiyu held their long spears and stared at the clansmen of Tung Jia village with bloodthirsty eyes. "Yes, yes," Tung Yunlong replied. 3 of your best hunters." Gu Shiyu turned his head and glanced at the other hunters on the war horses of the Silver Dragon Cavalry. "However, I've already heard from the hunters in the other villages. Your Tung Jia village's hunters are the most powerful. The leader of the hunting squad is called Tung Qinghao. The number 1 warrior of your Tung Jia village is Tung Yongfan. Therefore, these 2 must leave." When Tung Qingshan was young, his father, Tung Yongfan, was the number 1 warrior of the village. After practicing the Tiger Fist, Tung Yongfan's strength was only second to Tung Qingshan and Tung Qinghu. When Tung Qingshan and Tung Qinghao went to Gue Yuan sect, Tung Yongfan became the number 1 warrior of the village. Brother Fan, Yuan Lan, who was behind Tung Yongfan, suddenly changed her expression. Tung Yongfan held his wife's hand, appearing very calm. "My lord," Tung Yunlong said anxiously, "Tung Yongfan is the number 1 warrior of our Tung Jia village, but he is the number 1 blacksmith in our village. Therefore, he doesn't enter the mountain. He is not a hunter." Tung Yunlong's words were not true. Although Tung Yongfan was a blacksmith, he had joined the hunting squad when he was young. However, as his blacksmithing skills improved, he gradually stopped joining the hunting squad. Phew! A black shadow lit up. Tung Yunlong's expression changed. He only had time to block with his hands in front of his chest. He only felt a sharp pain in his hands, and the sound of bones breaking rang out. "Ha!" Tung Yunlong was thrown into the air like a broken sandbag. "Teacher, old chief." There were 2 young men in the clan at the place where Tung Yunlong fell. They immediately reached out and caught the old patriarch. Clang! Why? Seeing this, many of the furious men of the village put on their heavy armor and glared at the newcomers with red eyes. When Tung Jia village was weak, they still dared to fight against mounted bandits. Now that Tung Jia village was strong, although they were afraid of the strength of the enemy's heavy cavalry, once their eyes turned red, they were not afraid. "Teacher, foster father." Tung Yongfan and Yuan Lan ran to Tung Yunlong's side. At this moment, Tung Yunlong's mouth had a trace of blood. His hands were trembling, and the white bones could be seen on his bloody hands. Cough, cough. Tung Yunlong coughed twice and squeezed out a smile. Yong Fanlon, I'm fine. Fortunately, I practiced Tiger Fist. Although my hands were crippled, my life was saved. After practicing Tiger Fist, Tung Yunlong's body and internal organs became stronger. Tung Yunlong's hands were unloaded. Although he was injured, it didn't take Tung Yunlong's life. Teacher, Tung Yongfan's eyes were red, and he was about to cry. His teacher, Tung Yunlong's hands were crippled. You're already over 40 years old. Don't be like this. When I was young, your grandfather and I were killing wild beasts in the Great Yin Mountain. Even if my hands and legs were broken, I still clenched my teeth and continued to fight. Tung Yunlong comforted him with a smile. As an old man, Tung Yunlong's endurance was much stronger. Old man, I just said that you can only listen and not ask. This time I didn't take your life, but next time, Gu Shiyu's voice was still indifferent. However, Gu Shiyu was very surprised. Just now, he casually swung his spear to intimidate the people of Tongjia village. Although it was just a casual move, he didn't hold back. He guessed that an old man like him would die, without a doubt. However, it was obvious that the old chief of Tongjia village was stronger than he imagined. The men of Tongjia village want to fight with the Silver Dragon army of Qing, Hu Island. Gu Shiyu's gaze swept across the group of angry men of Tongjia village. The injured Tung Yunlong struggled to stand up. With Tung Yongfan's support, he smiled and said, "How could a poor village like ours dare to fight with the lords of Qinghu Island? Wouldn't that be courting death?" Gu Shiyu smiled. Tung Yunlong then continued, "Lords of Qinghu Island, you probably don't know that the first commander of the Black Armored Corps of the Gue Yuan sect, Tung Qingshan, is my grandson." The Tongjia village's training field became silent. It's fine if you want Tongjia village to send 3 hunters. However, Tung Yongfan is Qingshan's father. Moreover, he is a blacksmith, not a hunter. There's no reason for him to follow the lords of Qinghu Island. Tung Yunlong stared at Gu Shiyu. In a clan, the chief was the most important. How could he let the chief be taken away? Gu Shiyu narrowed his eyes. This old man is really troublesome. If the other party didn't mention Tung Qingshan, he could pretend that he didn't know and take Ting Yongfan away. However, the other party mentioned it. If he insisted on taking the father of an innate expert to do hard work, it would be bad for his reputation. Qinghu Island is one of the 8 supreme sects of the 9 prefectures. Tung Yunlong thought to himself. According to the books, the bigger the sect, the more they value their reputation. If I didn't say Qingshan's name, they could pretend that they didn't know. However, if I say it now, they should be able to restrain themselves. Commander Tung of the Gue Yuan sect? Gu Shiyu looked around with a surprised expression. I didn't expect that your Tongjia village is Tung Qingshan's hometown. However, Gu Shiyu's expression became cold again. We must take Tung Qinghao and Tung Yongfan away. This is a military order. Military orders must be obeyed. Qinghu Island is the #1 sect in Yangzhou. We can't change our military order for a commander of the Gue Yuan sect. As for Tung Qingshan's father, I will report this to the general of the Silver Dragon army. If the general changes his military order, he will send Tung Yongfan back. But now, we must take him away. Anyone who dares to resist will be killed without mercy. Gu Shiyu's eyes were cold. Tung Yunlong's heart trembled. He understood that the other party really wanted to take Tung Yongfan away. If Qinghu Island was determined to take Tung Yongfan away, they could use any excuse. The training field was in an uproar. Many of the clan members were angry. I will go with you. Tung Yongfan stood up. Many people were anxious. Brother Fan. Yuan Lan grabbed his hand. She was so anxious that she almost cried. Tung Yongfan turned his head and smiled. He touched his wife's face and said, Lan, you know that I must go. Yuan Lan's tears flowed down. She understood. It was obvious that the men of Qinghu Island wanted to take Tung Yongfan away. If they didn't listen, many people would die. Fan, Qinghao, I will go with you. A white-haired middle-aged man carrying a bow on his back and a long spear in his hand, walked out. "Father!" Tung Qinghao looked at the man in surprise. The man was the spear master of the clan, Tung Yongxiang. Tung Yongxiang was already over 50 years old. Because his wife died early, Tung Yongxiang valued his son, Qinghao. Qinghu Island came with ill intentions, so he was worried about his son. Yes. Tung Yongfan and Tung Yongxiang glanced at each other. The two brothers had been together for dozens of years. If they went together, they wouldn't just stand there and wait to be captured. Qinghao, father. Tung Qinghao's wife and two young children grabbed their father. Tung Qinghao touched his children's heads and said, "Father is not home. You must listen to mother. Understand?" "Yes, father." The children's clear and black eyes were filled with tears. "Get on the horses." Gu Shiyu frowned and shouted. Tung Yongfan, Tung Yongxiang, and Tung Qinghao smiled at the clansmen. Tung Qinghao and Tung Yongxiang both carried bows and arrows on their backs. The three of them rode on the same horse with the soldiers of Qinghu Island. "Depart," Gu Shiyu ordered. The 100 heavy cavalrymen turned their horses around and left like lightning, leaving behind the worried clansmen of Tungjia village. Chapter 197. Tung Qingshan in Jiangning County didn't know what happened in East City's Great Yin Mountain. Jiangning County, Tung residence. Under the pavilion, Tung Qingshan, who was wearing a green robe, sat quietly in front of a stone table. On the stone table was a thick, thread-bound book, Dark Moon Spear Technique. The book had already flipped to the second half. According to the description of Dark Moon Spear Technique, in the emptiness Dan innate realm, the so-called minute subtlety has two parts. As for my vermilion tiger roar, it is extremely demanding on the innate true origin. Obviously, I've already comprehended the minute subtlety. Tung Qingshan understood. The minute subtlety realm was divided into two steps. The first was the minute subtlety of one's own body, and the other was the minute subtlety of space. According to the description of the book, the spirit can leave the body and spread out to an area of one zhang. This can last for 10 minutes. To be able to reach the minute subtlety of space is the key to comprehending the true self or selflessness. Tung Qingshan closed his eyes and tried to use his consciousness to jump out of his body. With the experience of controlling the flying knife, Tung Qingshan could easily use his consciousness to leave his body. However, in the past, his consciousness had something attached to it. The flying knife. Now it was empty space. Tung Qingshan frowned and opened his eyes. This spirit doesn't have anything attached to it. It only spreads out around the body. It consumes so much energy. In just a short while, Tung Qingshan felt dizzy. He felt dizzy just like when he was training as an assassin in his previous life and was starved to the limit. It shouldn't consume so much energy. Tung Qingshan tried again. Although the battle between Qinghu Island and Gue Yuan sect didn't really start, it gave Tung Qingshan a lot of pressure. Obviously, although he could fight against a true Dan innate expert with his full strength, in the vast land of the 9 prefectures, his strength was more than enough to protect himself. However, if something big happened, it would be hard for him to intervene. The indescribable pressure made Tung Qingshan work harder, wanting to break through as soon as possible. Now he wanted to cultivate from the emptiness Dan innate realm to the true Dan innate realm. The second was to create a set of peak internal martial arts cultivation technique that surpassed the godly tiger form technique to make his body stronger. However, it was too difficult. Qingyu happily walked across the courtyard and saw Tung Qingshan under the pavilion. Brother really isn't tired at all. I wonder if he's free. Go accompany little Qing. Thinking of Zhuge Qing, Qingyu snickered, humph. In a month or so, during the annual sacrifice, father and mother will come. At that time, with Xiaoqing's culinary skills and appearance, her parents would definitely value her highly. Brother, when the time comes, father and mother will talk to you. Let's see what you will do then. There's still more than a month left. I really miss my parents. Qingyu's smile faded as she looked to the west. She had been with her parents since she was young. She had a kind mother and a gentle and stern father. She had eaten her mother's cooking for more than 10 years. Qingyu really missed her parents. Let's wait for another month or so, Qingyu said to herself. The center of the 9 prefectures, Yu State. Yu State, the county city of Behe County. A few days ago, it didn't snow in Behe County, but today it was snowing. The snowflakes were like goose feathers fluttering and covering the entire world. In the morning, when the commoners of Behe County woke up and opened their windows, they found out that it was already a world of snow outside. The snow on the ground was already 3 feet thick. It could be seen how heavy the snow was. In a remote study room in the Wan residence of Behe County, a total of 18 people gathered. Among the 18 people, there were old people, young people, and women on the desk in the study room. There was a piece of paper with many words written on it. It mainly talked about the destruction of Tai Hall. Qinghu Island then attacked Gui Yuan's sect, but failed. Instead, they took a detour to East City's Great Yin Mountain and stationed some information. Silence. After reading the contents of the paper, they were silent for a long time. Everyone, the woman wearing a flowery cotton jacket, said in a deep voice, "The sovereign and the others are all dead. Now, the most important thing for us is to rebuild Tai Hall." Luckily, Tai Hall had made a copy of all kinds of ancient books and records and brought them over. Everyone, prepare according to the plan. It took a long time for a sect to lay down its foundation. For example, it would take enough good disciples. Disciples with good aptitude, comprehension, and perseverance will be able to have good achievements. One must know that only one innate master would appear out of 10 million people. Tai Hall wanted to have another innate master. The only way was to keep taking in disciples. The more disciples they had, the more fish they would catch. Maybe after tens or hundreds of years, one innate master would appear. Qinghu Island. A silver-haired old man with bloodshot eyes gritted his teeth. One day, Tai Hall will take revenge for all the dead disciples. Even if it takes 100 years, even if it takes 1,000 years, we must succeed. To take revenge, we must. These 18 people were the most loyal ones chosen by Tai Hall. They were also the most trusted people of Tai Hall's sovereign, Nierong. The eyes of the woman wearing the flowery cotton jacket flashed coldly. According to the plan from now on, Tai Hall will no longer be called Tai Hall. It will be called Bloodcloth Sect. No matter how many years pass, Bloodcloth Sect will never forget this great hatred. Senior Marshal Sister Hua, a skinny young man, said in a deep voice, "This Bloodcloth Sect needs to choose a location, build it, and take in disciples step by step. Only when the first innate master appears in Bloodcloth Sect will it be qualified to become a decent small sect. As for the appearance of an innate master, it will take at least tens of years to nurture him. It will be considered good if he can succeed in 100 years." These 18 people all understood. Tai Hall had been annihilated. It would be too difficult for them to make a comeback. But since they were still here, it meant there was a spark. There was hope. Senior Marshal Sister Hua, we are destined to sacrifice our lives for the sect and live an ordinary life. The skinny young man said in a deep voice. He was in his prime, but for the sect, he had to abandon his wife and change his name. He was willing to do it for the sect, but there was still a trace of unwillingness in his heart. We can still take revenge on Qinghu Island one more time, and we won't be exposed. The skinny young man said. The other 17 people looked at him. Junior Marshal Brother, tell us. The woman wearing the flowery cotton jacket said. We must get one of the 9 cauldrons to explore Emperor Yu's treasure. Otherwise, we will definitely die. The skinny young man said in a deep voice, all of us know this, and our Bloodcloth Sect is going to excavate Emperor Yu's treasure. It will probably take a few hundred years. So, I think we should announce a piece of news to the public now. Just say that the army of Qinghu Island is stationed in the Great Yin Mountain of East City because Emperor Yu's treasure is in the Great Yin Mountain. Yes. The eyes of the elder wearing the white fur coat brightened as he hastily said, the army of Qinghu Island is now stationed in the Great Yin Mountain. Once the news spreads, it will definitely attract the greed of many powerful experts. For example, Emperor Yu's Hall. Emperor Yu is their ancestor. Will they give up? If Emperor Yu's Hall intervenes, the army of Qinghu Island will probably suffer. If the news spreads, the Supreme Sects will probably send people there. However, the Supreme Sects may not believe the news completely. They won't send many people. And the army of Qinghu Island has the advantage there. In order to obtain Emperor Yu's treasure, there will definitely be a fight. When Qinghu Island fights fiercely and has no choice but to compromise with the other sections, they will realize in despair that without one of the 9 cauldrons, they will definitely die in the maze of Emperor Yu's treasure. Good. Not only will Qinghu Island lose a lot of people in Emperor Yu's treasure palace, they will also make them and the other sects lose a lot of people. As for the other sects, they also covet Emperor Yu's treasure. They can't blame others if they die. These 18 people had just witnessed the tragedy of their own sect being destroyed. When they thought of the death of more experts from the 8 supreme sects, they felt happy. In order to take revenge, these 18 people began to spread the news of Emperor Yu's treasure in various places. It was obvious a huge storm was about to rise. In this chaotic world, everyone had their own encounters, and every sect had their own encounters as well. For example, the small sects in Shuyang County might be destroyed at any time. Now that Qinghu Island had unified Shuyang County, all the small sects were finished. No one paid attention to them. However, the destruction of Tai Yi Hall attracted the attention of the people in the world, because Tai Yi Hall was much stronger than the small sects in Shuyang County. In comparison, Tai Yi Hall had existed for over 1,000 years and was much luckier than the small sects in Shuyang County. Those who thought their fate was bad, there were even worse. Those who thought their fate was good, there were even better. The small sects in Shuyang County envied Tai Yi Hall and Gue Yuan sect. Tai Yi Hall and Gue Yuan sect envied the powerful Qinghu Island. They hoped that they could catch up to Qinghu Island and become the strongest in Yangzhou. As for Qinghu Island, they hoped that one day they could be on par with Mani Temple. Even if they couldn't catch up to Mani Temple, they would first catch up to Emperor Yu's Hall and Ying family. As for humans, the young island lord of Qinghu Island, Gu Shiyu, was born into a good family and had the halo of a genius since he was young. However, when Tung Qingshan rose, he began to feel unbalanced. Tung Qingshan was already very strong. At the age of 17, he could fight against a true Dan innate expert. However, he would not be satisfied. He would continue to pursue the peak. Tung Yongfan was an ordinary man. When he was young, he hoped to have an outstanding son. He didn't hope that his son could catch up to Tung Qinghu, but he wanted his son to be close. However, God gave him a son, and his son's performance far exceeded his expectations. His son even made Tungjia village so strong that the mounted gangsters didn't dare to offend him. If it wasn't for Tung Qingshan, the mounted gangsters would have fought for power a few times. Even if Tungjia village wasn't destroyed, a large number of clansmen would have died. However, it was also because of Tung Qingshan that Gu Shiyu insisted on taking him away today. Was Tung Qingshan's existence good or bad? The answer was obvious in the heart of a simple man like Tung Yongfan. To have such a son, he was very proud. What do people want in life? With such a son, the clansmen of Tungjia village could go out and be envied by the commoners of other villages. That was enough. In this chaotic world, people died every day. Everyone was important in the eyes of their family. No one was more pampered than anyone else. Even the lofty sovereign, and heavenly ranking experts would die if they wanted to. This was the chaotic world. Tung Yunlong had this understanding. So in the past, when many women of Tungjia village were captured by the mounted gangsters, he could only endure. Tung Yongfan had this understanding. So he left with the men of Qinghu Island. Tung Qingshan had this understanding. So when Qinghu Island attacked, Tung Qingshan could only hold the long spear in his hand and fight against the enemy. Emperor Yu's treasure. This was a treasure that could make an individual stronger and a sect more prosperous. Without a doubt, once the news spread, a bloody storm would be stirred up. P.S. 2 chapters finished. Today, Tomato wrote this to explain one thing. The world of the story of the Nine Cauldrons was a chaotic world, a bloody, forthright, and tyrannical world. In such a chaotic world, anyone could die. A war, a treasure, would cause many people to die. Since the bloody massacre of the Great Yin Mountain was named Bloody Massacre, it meant that many people would die in this chapter. Hopefully, everyone could bear it. Of course, many things that were not written were unknown. Would Tung Yong Fan die? Not necessarily. Just read on. Chapter 198. A group of heavily armored soldiers escorted 9 hunters through the Great Yin Mountain. As the group of people walked, the snow on the brambles and weeds trembled and fell from time to time. Roar! Occasionally, the howls of wild wolves could be heard from afar. Those bastards are in trouble, Tung Yongxiang said with a smile. Tung Yongfan held the iron spear in his hand and smiled in agreement. However, he was calculating in his heart. Qinghu Island captured a total of 180 hunters when the hunters gathered. They captured 3 hunters from each village, which means they captured almost 60 villages. Now, 9 hunters and 50 silver dragon soldiers are in a team, which means there are 20 teams. At this moment, the 20 teams were scattered and searching in the Great Yin Mountain. Not only them, but there were also thousands of silver dragon soldiers in teams of 3 to 5, searching in the Great Yin Mountain. However, the Great Yin Mountain was much larger than the Blazing Mountain. If there were no locals to guide them, they would be searching like a blind man. No one knew how long it would take. 50 heavily armored soldiers are escorting 9 hunters. It will be very difficult to escape. Tung Yongfan thought to himself, how far are the 9 of you from the bottomless pit? The leader of the 50 silver dragon soldiers, a strong man with a body like a black bear, shouted impatiently. Of the 9 hunters, the 6 hunters from the other villages naturally followed the lead of the hunters from Tungjia village. Lord, Tung Qinghao hastily said, the bottomless pit is about 20 li away from us along the mountain road. We will definitely reach it before evening. In this great mountain, the distance between 2 points in a straight line might be very close, but the mountain road was rugged, and there would occasionally be valleys. You guys, hurry up. Don't delay. The strong man with the black bear shouted and continued forward. Brother Qinghao, the men of Qinghu Island won't kill us, right? The hunters from the other villages approached Tung Qinghao and whispered, let's take it one step at a time. Tung Qinghao also whispered. Tung Yongfan recalled the scene when the 180 hunters gathered together and were questioned by Guyong, the island lord of Qinghu Island. That island lord of Qinghu Island first asked if we saw the large ancient palace in the mountain. We all said we didn't see it. He then asked if you found any caves or deep pools that lead to the underground. Obviously, Qinghu Island is looking for an ancient palace. This ancient palace should be at the bottom of the Great Yin Mountain. It was easy for Tung Yongfan to guess. There is an ancient palace at the bottom of the Great Yin Mountain? Tung Yongfan thought about it and couldn't believe it. In the depths of the Great Yin Mountain, there was a spacious area beside a small stream. A large number of military camps were stationed here. In a certain large tent, the 13 inborn experts sat on the chairs. 20 teams and 9,000 silver dragon soldiers have been searching for 4 hours, but there's still no news. The purple-robed lady frowned. This time, there were 20 squads, which meant 1,000 silver dragon soldiers. Adding the scattered 9,000, there was a total of 10,000 silver dragon soldiers searching. Don't worry. I believe there will be news before nightfall. Most of the elders were leisurely drinking tea. Island Lord Zhao Danshun looked at Guyong, who was resting with his eyes closed. Guyong opened his eyes, and Zhao Danshun continued. We stationed 30,000 soldiers in the Great Yin Mountain. If the news spread, would it attract the attention of others? The corners of Guyong's mouth curled up into a smile as he said, Elder Zhao, so what if it attracts the attention of others? The army of Qinghu Island will first destroy Tai Yi Hall, then prepare to attack Gui Yuan's sect. Now we are stationed in the Great Yin Mountain. What's the big deal? Even if the other sects knew, they would at most wonder why we are stationed here. Could it be that they will think of Emperor Yu's treasure? If the elders saw that Xiao Yao Palace suddenly stationed their army on a mountain, what would you think of? Guyong looked at the crowd. I'm afraid I would suspect that Xiao Yao Palace discovered some huge mineral deposits on the mountain. Zhao Danshan laughed. When the elders heard this, they all laughed. The 13 of them knew that it was Emperor Yu's treasure, so they were worried that it would arouse the suspicion of others. If they were really sneaky and were discovered by the other sects, then they would really be suspicious. But now, he had openly stationed the army here. Almost all the sects would think maybe they discovered a huge mineral deposit and wanted to occupy it. For thousands of years, no one has found Emperor Yu's treasure. No one would have thought that we came here for Emperor Yu's treasure. So, don't worry and be bold, Guyong said with a smile. Although he was smiling, Guyong was still slightly worried. Will the remaining members of Tai E Hall know this secret? Although Guyong was worried, he had no other choice. It was impossible to eliminate the roots of a sect that had existed for over 1,000 years and kill everyone. Just like Tai E Hall, there were over 100,000 disciples and soldiers in Chu County alone. There were also people stationed in other places. No matter how powerful a sect was, it was impossible to kill every disciple of Tai E Hall, which was so deeply rooted. Therefore, it was enough to eliminate this kind of sect by killing all the core members and innate experts. After all, there are only a few post-luminary experts left. Could it be that they could destroy Qing Hu Island with just a few dozen post-luminary experts? If Qing Hu Island was so easy to destroy, it wouldn't have existed for so many years. Find Emperor Yu's treasure as soon as possible and take it away. Guyong thought to himself, Island Lord, Island Lord. Suddenly, an excited shout came from outside. A figure barged in without any prior notice. Island Lord, we found an underground lake. The middle-aged man's eyes lit up as he said excitedly. Phew! The 13 innate experts stood up at almost the same time. Guyong stared at him and said hastily, Quick, tell me the details. Yes, Island Lord. The middle-aged man took a deep breath and said, This is what happened. This time, one of the 20 teams found a bottomless hole in the weeds. Those hunters said that the hole was unfathomably deep, and they didn't dare to enter. At that time, 20 silver dragon soldiers went down slowly by relying on ropes and vines. About an hour later, a few silver dragon soldiers escaped from the deep hole in fright. At the same time, a demonic beast also came out of the hole. A demonic beast? The eyes of Guyong and the others brightened. Actually, they already knew that the spiritual chi of the heavens and earth was abundant in the place where Emperor Yu's treasure was kept. It wasn't strange for a demonic beast to appear. Since a demonic beast appeared there, it meant that they might have found the right place. That was a stone-piercing beast that was nearly 1 zhang long. When the demonic beast and the soldiers fought, it attracted the attention of the other silver dragon soldiers. A large number of silver dragon soldiers surrounded and killed the stone-piercing beast. In the end, the stone-piercing beast escaped into the deep hole. In this battle, 4 hunters were killed by the stone-piercing beast, 68 silver dragon soldiers died, and over 20 people were injured. It seems that this stone-piercing beast hasn't transformed yet. Guyong said. The stone-piercing beast was covered in scales. Its claws and teeth could easily penetrate rocks. It was a demonic beast that lived underground. When encountering this kind of creature, the heavily armored silver dragon soldiers met their nemesis. The stone-piercing beast could easily tear through heavy armor. The 2 surviving silver dragon soldiers who escaped from the underground said, That's right. About 800 feet underground, they found an underground lake. It was a very large lake. It was water for at least 10 zhang. Because there was no light underground, they didn't dare to swim too far and immediately came up. But on the way up, they were attacked by the stone-piercing beast. As soon as he said this, Guyong and the others were delighted. The original lake was a lake with a circumference of 10 li. Guyong still remembered the records in the books. A lake of that size sunk into the ground and was covered by rocks. I didn't expect that there would be so much lake water. Lead the way, Gu Yong ordered. Immediately, the 13 innate experts rushed to the deep hole. Hundreds of silver dragon soldiers had gathered here. As Gu Yong and the other innate experts arrived, everyone made way for them. Island Lord, this is the deep hole that leads to the underground. Following the directions, Gu Yong walked to the side of the deep hole. The weeds around the deep hole had been cleared, revealing the dark hole that was 30 to 40 zhang wide. One couldn't see the bottom with a glance. On the soil beside the deep hole, there were dark bloodstains and even pieces of flesh. There were many deep ravines on the ground. It was obvious that a great battle had occurred. Very good. Gu Yong nodded. Sovereign, what should we do with the hunters? General Lan asked in a low voice. Gu Yong turned and glanced at him, saying indifferently, kill them all. The hunters knew that Qinghu Island was looking for the mysterious palace, and they also knew that Qinghu Island was looking for the deep hole or pool that led to the underground. Therefore, they couldn't be left alive. Although the other great sects didn't know that Qinghu Island was looking for Emperor Yu's treasure. But with Gu Yong's personality, it was best to be cautious. Yes, General Lan responded. Also pass down the order. Order the Silver Dragon soldiers to set up camp in a radius of 5 to 6 li around this deep hole. Gu Yong knew clearly that 30,000 people couldn't seal off the entire Great Yin Mountain. Therefore, he could only narrow the perimeter. Send out the order to assemble and execute. Gu Yong gave a few orders in a row. This deep pool is really cold. It's cold in the winter, but this deep pool is even colder. A few Silver Dragon soldiers who were searching for the deep hole and pool were looking at the frost jade pool halfway up the mountain. They used their hands to feel the low temperature, but none of them dared to enter the deep pool. Xiao! A sharp sound resounded through the sky. The few soldiers raised their heads and looked. Order to assemble. Let's go. Stop searching and go quickly. The few Silver Dragon soldiers immediately rushed over. According to the previous rules, once the signal to assemble was sent out, all the teams would stop searching and gather towards the place where the signal was sent out. Moments after the signal to assemble was sent out, Xiao, Xiao, Xiao. Soon after, 3 sharp sounds resounded through the sky. This was the signal to kill all the hunters. Chapter 199. In the barracks of the Great Yin Mountain, the young island lord, Gu Shiyu, was practicing with a black long spear in his hand. However, the 3 consecutive sharp sounds made Gu Shiyu turn his head and look at the sky. Execute them all. Gu Shiyu frowned. He knew the secret signal. Didn't Tung Qingshan's father die? It was Gu Shiyu's personal decision to capture Tung Yongfan when he went to capture the hunters. Although Qinghu Island thought that Tung Qingshan was a threat, Tung Qingshan was only an emptiness Dan innate expert. The higher-ups of Qinghu Island didn't take him seriously. Although the elders weren't worried, Gu Shiyu felt that it was unfair. Tung Qingshan was a country bumpkin. He had just emerged, yet he was ranked first in the Hidden Dragon ranking, suppressing Gu Shiyu. At this moment, Gu Shiyu could still bear with it. He still wanted to cultivate hard and surpass Tung Qingshan. However, he soon found out that Tung Qingshan had reached the innate realm. Reaching the innate realm at the age of 17 made Gu Shiyu, who had had a smooth journey, unable to bear it. Therefore, he forcefully captured Tung Yongfan with his dark thoughts. If this could lure Tung Qingshan over, Qinghu Island wouldn't mind killing Tung Qingshan. Tung Qingshan, your father is dead. I didn't give the order. Gu Shiyu revealed an evil smile. Actually, your father was quite lucky. Even after his death, 179 hunters were buried with him. In a valley in the Great Yin Mountain, Tung Yongfan and the other hunters gathered with the Silver Dragon soldiers. In the wild grass of the valley, there was a bottomless hole that was 3 zhang wide. Actually, there were a few such holes in the Great Yin Mountain. Hey, you guys! One of the one-eyed Silver Dragon soldiers shouted. Captain and the others went down. How long will it take for them to come back? Tung Qinghao shook his head helplessly. Lords, we hunters don't dare to go down this bottomless hole. Who knows how long it will take? However, With the strength of the 20 lords, they will definitely be fine. As the new captain of the Tang Jia village's hunting squad, Tang Qinghao had seen a lot of the world. He had seen the great leader of the White Horse Gang and the lord of East City, so he wasn't afraid. Humph, the one-eyed man snorted. At this moment, Xiao, a sharp bird cry resounded through the sky. Order to assemble? The 30 silver dragon soldiers on the ground raised their heads and looked at the sky. Looks like we found it. The one-eyed man helplessly walked to the entrance of the deep cave and shouted, Captain, assembly order. Let's hurry back. Only the echoes of go back and go back could be heard echoing in this invincible deep cave. Everyone, get ready to return, said the one-eyed soldier. Just then, Xiao, Xiao, Xiao. 3 consecutive sharp bird cries resounded. The Silver Dragon Army sergeants who were sitting on the ground and preparing to get up and set off were stunned. They knew very well what this signal meant, because they had been informed before they came. Immediately, the 30 Silver Dragon Army's sergeants exchanged glances secretly. We have to walk back again. The hunters stood up one by one. Phew, a strong wind blew. Pooh, a swift saber with a cold glint slashed across the throat of a young man. His head flew up, and the severed neck immediately spurted out blood. After killing a hunter with a sneak attack, the one-eyed soldier roared, Kill! The 30 Silver Dragon Army sergeants simultaneously pounced towards the other 8 hunters. The hunters only had simple red-tasseled spears, while the Silver Dragon Army sergeants were well-trained. There were 30 of them. If the 30 Silver Dragon Army sergeants couldn't kill the 9 hunters without heavy armor, that would be a big joke. Pooh, pooh. Being caught off guard, another 2 hunters were killed. At the same time, the 30 Silver Dragon soldiers spread out in a well-trained manner, as if they were wrapping dumplings. They wanted to encircle the 6 hunters completely. Run! Tung Qinghao yelled. The surviving 6 hunters immediately fled towards the north. Charge! Tung Yongfan roared anxiously because the Silver Dragon Army's encirclement was about to be completed. If they ran any slower, they would be finished. Son of A.B. *T-Sich, a middle-aged man, who was facing danger, held a red-tasseled spear and thrusted it towards the attacking Silver Dragon Army soldier with an angry roar. Clang! The tip of the spear pierced the heavy armor, but only left a white mark. Phew! The Silver Dragon Army's ruthless saber slashed the hunter's throat. Another hunter died. It was obvious that among the surviving hunters, the 3 from Tangjia village were the strongest and ran the fastest. You can't escape. With a sneer, the 30 Silver Dragon Army's encirclement was completed. Tung Yongfan, Tung Yongxiang, Tung Qinghao, and the other 2 hunters' expressions changed drastically. The 30 Silver Dragon Army's encirclement began to shrink, closing in on the 5 hunters. Charge! Tung Yongfan yelled, and his body suddenly shot up. Puchi! The Damascus steel spear in Tung Yongfan's hand was like a swimming dragon as it smashed towards the Silver Dragon Army soldiers in front of him with an ear-piercing whistling sound. The 3 Silver Dragon Army soldiers in front of him paled and immediately used their sabers to block. Bang! A series of crashing sounds rang out. Tung Yongfan actually smashed a Silver Dragon Army soldier into the air and knocked 2 Silver Dragon Army soldiers to the side. It should be known that when Tung Qingshan was young, his father, Tung Yongfan, was the strongest man in the village. His arms had the strength of over 1,000 jin. After practicing the Tiger Fist for a few years, Tung Qingshan's physical strength had increased greatly, reaching over 2,000 jin. In addition, because he practiced the Tiger Fist, his body also had inner strength. The instantaneous explosive force was almost 4,000 jin. Normally, when the strength reached 2,000 jin, one would be considered a second-rated warrior. An ordinary deck arch would only have the strength of a second-rated warrior. Since Tung Yongfan practiced the Great Pillar Spear, his spear art was naturally strong. Among the 30 Silver Dragon Army soldiers, none of them could win against him in a one-on-one fight. However, the opponents had many people, and all of them had heavy armor. Let's go, Tung Yongfan shouted. Tung Yongxiang and Tung Qinghao hastily followed. Phew, phew, phew. The three wanted to escape. If they could escape so easily, the Silver Dragon Army wouldn't be worthy of being called the elite army of Qinghu Island. When the three soldiers fell, the other soldiers immediately closed up and blocked the gap. Surround and kill. With a cold shout, the sabers slashed over. Facing the large number of sabers, Tung Yongfan and the others became anxious. Pooh, pooh, pooh. The other two hunters only had time to let out an unwilling scream before they died. Clang, clang, clang. All of them practiced the tiger fist and the great pillar spear. The three men of Tungjia village were nimble, and their spear art was swift and fierce. The three of them actually blocked many sabers together. Qinghao. Tung Yongxiang kicked the saber that was slashing towards his son, Tung Qinghao, away. Although Tung Yongxiang dodged quickly, he was still distracted because he was trying to save his son. Pooh! A saber left a big wound on his back, and blood flowed out. Father. Tung Qinghao was shocked. In this instant, the encirclement tightened again. Qinghao, let's go. Tung Yongxiang grabbed Tung Qinghao's waist and exerted force with his right arm. Phew! Tung Qinghao's body, which weighed more than 100 jin, was thrown out of the encirclement. Puchi. The Silver Dragon Army soldiers took the opportunity and slashed Tung Yongxiang's chest. Tung Qinghao, who was thrown to the ground, turned his head and looked. He couldn't help but stare angrily and anxiously. The corners of his eyes were about to tear. Father! A painful and mournful cry sounded. F***CK. Tung Yongxiang, who was stabbed in the chest, felt dizzy. He roared and poured all the remaining strength in his body into the Damascus steel spear in his hand. Central thrust. Tung Yongxiang yelled. Xiao. The spear art of Tungjia village consisted of the central thrust and the great spear. As a spear art master, Tung Yongxiang had practiced the central thrust for more than 40 years. The central thrust that he executed at the last moment of his life was as fast as lightning. Clang! The tip of the spear pierced through the mask and the head of a Silver Dragon Army soldier. This was the first Silver Dragon Army soldier to die out of the 30 people. Tung Yongxiang glared angrily and killed the Silver Dragon Army soldier with the central thrust. After that, he stopped moving. Chase after that brat. The one-eyed soldier yelled. Father. Tung Qinghao wiped his tears and immediately ran far away. No matter how painful or angry he was, he had to escape. His father had died for him. Otherwise, with his father's spear art as a great spear art master, he wouldn't have died so quickly. Tung Yongfan, who already had 3 wounds on his body, was furious like a fierce tiger. He leaped and waved his Damascus steel spear. He actually smashed a soldier who wanted to chase after Tung Qinghao to the ground. Tung Yongfan immediately stretched out his left hand and grabbed the soldier's ankle like he was swinging a whip. Tung Yongfan grabbed the ankle and smashed it to the ground. Boom! This smash caused the Silver Dragon Army soldier's head to be completely shattered. Even his helmet was shaken off. Phew! Phew! The enraged Tung Yongfan waved the corpse of the Silver Dragon Army soldier and smashed a few soldiers away. He then swung the corpse and smashed a soldier who was chasing after Tung Qinghao. Kill him. The soldiers were furious. How could there be casualties when killing a few hunters? This was too embarrassing. Tung Qinghao's face was full of tears, but he ran like a leopard. He dashed quickly in the forest, and the 2 soldiers who were chasing after him quickly lost sight of Tung Qinghao. This was because this was the Great Yin Mountain, and Tung Qinghao was the captain of the hunter squadron. Tung Qinghao was too familiar with the Great Yin Mountain. Of course, the most important reason was that Tung Yongfan was restraining too many soldiers. Otherwise, Tung Qinghao wouldn't have been able to escape if a large number of soldiers used their inner strength to surround and kill him. In the forest, Tung Qinghao would occasionally see 2 or 3 soldiers after running for a while. These soldiers were all gathering in the center. After running for a while, Tung Qinghao didn't see any more soldiers. Father, Uncle Yongfan. Tung Qinghao clenched his teeth and looked back. His father had died for him. What about Tung Yongfan? Although he didn't see Tung Yongfan die with his own eyes, he saw his Uncle Yongfan being surrounded by a group of Silver Dragon Army soldiers. Tung Yongfan didn't have heavy armor, and the enemy had heavy armor. He would probably be killed by the enemy after killing 2 or 3 Silver Dragon Army soldiers. Father, Uncle Yongfan, I will definitely take revenge. I will definitely take revenge. Tung Qinghao hid in the bushes with a ferocious expression as he said to himself, I must tell Qing Shan about this. Facing the colossal Qinghu Island, he couldn't think of anyone else except for Tung Qingshan. Tung Qingshan had never disappointed anyone. Only Tung Qingshan could solve this problem. This enmity must be avenged. Tung Qinghao quickly flew away. P.S. 2 chapters completed. Call for monthly votes at the end of the month. Call for recommendation votes. I'm lagging behind. Chapter 200. In the Great Yin Mountain, more than 20 Silver Dragon soldiers were enraged and surrounded Tung Yongfan. Tung Yongfan's eyes widened as if he was forging iron. He swept the Damascus steel spear in his hand horizontally like a huge guillotine. Phew! Seeing this, the soldiers had already retreated and dodged. Immediately, a large space appeared in the surroundings. At this moment, Tung Yongfan could only rely on this move to avoid being cut by a group of people at the same time. Tung Yongfan's crazy swing definitely had a force of several thousand jin. Even with heavy armor, one's body would still be shaken and injured. This barbarian has inner strength and is very strong. Brothers, be careful and exhaust him to death. The one-eyed soldier hastily roared. More than 20 Silver Dragon soldiers encircled Tung Yongfan like a pack of wolves encircling a tiger. Every time Tung Yongfan launched an attack, they would immediately dodge to the side. What was worse was that this group of people were all wearing heavy armor. If it wasn't for the fact that the armor's defense was weak, it would be impossible to kill these soldiers. Pooh! Another cut appeared on Tung Yongfan's left arm. Now, there were more than 10 cuts on his body. Fortunately, he had reached the initial stage of the Tiger Fist and could slightly control his muscles. With the control of his inner strength, he didn't bleed too much. Don't run. When Tung Yongfan was cut, he immediately shouted and dashed forward. His left hand was like an iron claw and grabbed the soldier's wrist. Good. Tung Yongfan's eyes brightened. He used the soldier's body as a weapon and swung it wildly. Crack. Unexpectedly, he used too much force and the soldier's weak wrist was broken. The broken hand with the steel glove was in Tung Yongfan's hand, but the soldier howled in pain and flew away. After all, the arm guard and the glove weren't connected. It wasn't strange for the weak wrist to be broken by a force of several thousand jin. That soldier was flung into the air and heavily smashed into 3 other soldiers. With one hand broken, the soldier howled in pain. Holding a severed hand, Tung Yongfan howled insolently, You bastards, come at me. Today, I will kill one to break even. The more I kill, the more I earn. Come, bastards. With bloodshot eyes, Tung Yongfan went crazy and didn't care about his own injuries. He wanted to seize every opportunity, kill as many as you can. The soldiers looked at each other. Brothers, don't be afraid of getting hurt. Kill him in one breath. The one-eyed soldier roared angrily, and the 20 or so soldiers immediately charged forward recklessly. Originally, everyone wanted to kill Tung Yongfan without getting injured. But from the looks of it now, it was probably impossible. Son of a B****, TCH. Tung Yongfan, whose entire body was covered in blood, glared at the one-eyed soldier with bloodshot eyes. At this moment, he did not care about the sharp blades of the other soldiers. With a low roar, his legs fiercely stomped on the ground, and he leapt out like a tiger. This desperate leap actually allowed him to dodge quite a few sabers. The muscles on his arms, which had been hardened by years of smithing, bulged up, and a powerful force was poured into the Damascus steel spear in his hands. Die! Tung Yongfan's eyes were about to explode. A bolt of black lightning. Tung Jia village's only offensive move, horizontal thrust. The one-eyed soldier also roared and slashed with his saber. Clang! With a crisp sound, the Damascus steel spear brushed past the saber. The tip of the spear actually pierced through the mask, piercing through the other eye of the one-eyed soldier. Puff! The long spear pierced through the head. Ah! Ting Yongfan's body suddenly twitched as a saber heavily slashed through his back. Puff! Fresh blood crazily sprayed out. Although Tung Yongfan had suffered many attacks, none of them were fatal. However, this saber instantly caused Tung Yongfan's entire lower body to go limp and lose all feeling. Uncontrollably, Ting Yongfan was about to fall to the ground. Ah! Ting Yongfan let out a low roar as he turned around and threw the long spear in his hands. Whoosh! The long spear left an afterimage in the air and directly pierced the chest of a silver dragon soldier, causing the heavy armor on his chest to slightly cave in. The soldier's entire body was sent flying by the force of the impact. Kill him! Seeing Tung Yongfan already on the ground, the other soldiers immediately surrounded him. Roar! A deep, and terrifying roar that could shake one's soul suddenly came from the cave, several zhang away. Hearing the roar alone, the 20 or so silver dragon soldiers hastily turned their heads to look in fear. They saw a figure dashing out from the entrance of the bottomless pit. Quick, run! The eyes of the person who dashed out were filled with fear. Lord! The 20 or so soldiers were shocked. The person who dashed out was the leader of the 20 people who entered the bottomless pit, their centurion. Phew! A black figure dashed out from the cave and instantly pounced on the silver dragon centurion. Ah! The unresigned scream suddenly stopped, and a strong fishy smell pervaded the air. This fishy smell was like the smell of dead and rotting fish. Seeing the monster that dashed out, all the soldiers were dumbfounded. This was a monster that looked like a centipede. Its body was 2 zhang long, but its height was only 3 qi. Its claws were like sharp blades, and they flickered with an icy cold luster. Its body was covered with pitch-black scales. It had a pair of huge eyes, but there was a black dot in the center. The other parts of its eyes were deathly white. 2 fangs extended out of its mouth like a pair of big scissors. Demonic beast. After the demonic beast killed the centurion, it immediately pounced on the other soldiers. At this moment, Tung Yongfan, who was lying on the ground, gritted his teeth and thought to himself, "There's nowhere else to run." Although he couldn't feel his lower body, he exerted force with his arms and pounced towards the entrance of the cave. The demonic beast immediately bit at Tung Yongfan. Puchi! One of Tung Yongfan's legs was torn off by the demonic beast, and blood flowed out. Tung Yongfan immediately used his hands to support himself. Without slowing down, he dashed into the bottomless pit. Roar! In the midst of the demonic beast's roar, the silver dragon soldiers resisted at first, but after a few moments, over 10 of them died. They fled frantically. In the evening, at the edge of the Great Yin Mountain, Tung Qinghao looked at the Ting Jia village at the foot of the mountain and carefully examined it. There are no soldiers of Qinghu Island. Immediately, he dashed towards the Tung Jia village. To be cautious, he didn't enter through the main gate. Instead, he climbed over the wall from the west side of the Tung Jia village. Actually, the soldiers of Qinghu Island had already gathered. Even if they patrolled, they couldn't station the soldiers inside the village. On the training field of the Tung Jia village, many clansmen gathered. Everyone felt uneasy. Chief, Great Master, and Brother Qinghao, why haven't they returned yet? They will definitely return in a while. Sister Elan, the chief will return soon. Yuan Lan, who was over 40 years old, had slightly yellow hair with a few strands of white hair. Her eyes were red and swollen as she stared at the gate of the training field, gazing into the distance. She was hoping that her man would appear in her field of vision. Brother Qinghao is back. Suddenly, a joyful voice sounded. Everyone immediately turned their heads and looked towards the source of the voice. From the west, they saw a dirty figure running over with a few clansmen. It was the captain of the Tung Jia village's hunter team, Tung Qinghao. Qinghao, father, Tung Qinghao's wife and children immediately rushed over in ecstasy. The other clansmen also rushed over excitedly. Qinghao is back. Brother Fan and the others should be back as well. Yuan Lan's face revealed a hint of joy as she rushed over. Tung Qinghao hugged his children and couldn't help but cry. Almost, he would never be able to see his son and daughter again, nor would he be able to see his wife. Qinghao, where's your father and Uncle Yongfan? The old chief, Tung Yunlong, hastily asked. Tung Qinghao froze and raised his head to look at the crowd. He especially saw Yuan Lan, whose eyes were red and swollen as she looked at him expectantly. He couldn't help but grit his teeth and said in a deep voice, "The bastards of Qinghu Island ordered to kill all the hunters. My father died to save me." Uncle Yongfan was also surrounded by those soldiers. I was the only one who escaped. What? What did you say? Yuan Lan widened her eyes in disbelief. Uncle Yongfan was surrounded by a group of silver dragon soldiers. I didn't see Uncle Yongfan die. But Tung Qinghao's voice lowered. Everyone became quiet. Everyone could guess the result of Tung Yongfan being surrounded by a group of soldiers without any heavy armor. No. Yuan Lan hastily shook her head. She couldn't believe that the man who had been with her for most of her life had died just like that. For as long as she could remember, they had been together. They were childhood sweethearts. Then they got married. A long time after they got married, they had a son, Tung Qingshan. After 3 years, they had a daughter, Tung Qingyu. For so many years, the husband and wife had never fallen in love with each other. They didn't have an earth-shattering love, and they didn't understand it either. She only knew how to cook and dress for her man. That kind of care and support for each other was deeply ingrained in their bones. After dozens of years, the two of them were like lovebirds, and they had become one. Neither of them could leave the other. No. Yuan Lan's face turned pale without a trace of blood. Lan. Tung Yunlong hastily shouted. Pooh! A trace of dark red blood flowed from the corner of Yuan Lan's mouth. Yuan Lan felt dizzy and fell to the ground powerlessly. Tung Yunlong carried his daughter and ran towards the house of the doctor in the village. Hurry! Tung Qinghao said hurriedly, find a horse. I want to go to Jiangning. Tung Qinghao returned to Tungjia village because he wanted to ride a horse to Jiangning. If he relied on his 2 legs, how long would it take? Qinghao, don't worry. His wife hastily said, today, when you and the chief were taken away, the old chief immediately arranged for Uncle Yonglei to bring people to Jiangning to find Qingshan. He should have arrived at Jiangning by now. In the evening, the sky was dark. At the entrance of the Tung residence in Jiangning County, the one-armed Tung Yonglei and 3 other men of Tungjia village were led here by a sergeant of the Black Armor Corps. This is the residence of the Lord Commander, the sergeant of the Black Armor Corps said. Thank you. Tung Yonglei said gratefully and immediately walked towards the gate. Just as the guard at the gate was about to stop him, Tung Yonglei hastily shouted, Qingyu, who was walking past the front yard, turned her head and was overjoyed. Uncle! She then immediately rushed out happily. Uncle, brother Qingyang, why are you here? Qingyu seemed very excited. Quick, take me to see your brother, Tung Yonglei hastily said. P.S. Chapter 1. Chapter 201. Brother, Uncle Yonglei and the others are here. Qingyu shouted from afar. Tung Qingshan, who had just finished dinner and was studying the realm of true self and the minute's subtlety, couldn't help but raise his head to look. He immediately stood up and greeted happily. Uncle, Qingyu and I were planning to go back a few days before the yearly sacrifice. Come, sit down and rest. Qingshan, I have an urgent matter. Tung Yonglei's face was filled with anxiety. A young man beside him hastily said, Brother Qingshan, the men of Qinghu Island went to Tungjia village. Tung Qingshan's expression, which was originally filled with joy, instantly changed as he asked, Uncle, what happened? It happened before lunchtime today. Qinghu Island sent about 100 heavy cavalrymen. They should be the Silver Dragon soldiers. Those people took 3 hunters from each village. They also took 3 hunters from Tangjia village. If we had to choose 3, we wouldn't be in such a hurry. However, the leader of the Qinghu Island soldiers said that he wanted to take your father and Qinghao away. Your father is not a hunter, but they wanted to take him away. We all felt that something was wrong. When those people left, the old chief sent us to report. Father was taken away? How could the men of Qinghu Island take father away by force? Qingyu was very anxious. The 3 people who were taken away were your father, Qinghao, and your uncle Yongxiang. Tung Yonglei said. When Tung Qingshan heard this, anger surged in his heart. The men of Qinghu Island actually dared to bully him. However, it was obvious that in the eyes of the enormous Qinghu Island, they didn't care about Tung Qingshan. The worst thing is, Tung Yonglei hastily said, at that time, the old chief had already mentioned your name. However, when the men of Qinghu Island heard your name, they still took your father and the other 2 away. Although Tung Qingshan was angry, he was also thinking quickly. If one of the hunters was captured, they would know that one of the hunters was the father of an innate expert. Normally, they would give him face and not capture him, because capturing the father of an innate rancor was equivalent to making an enemy out of an innate rancor. The people of Qinghu Island are actually this shameless? Tung Qingshan was extremely furious. Could it be that they think that I reached the innate realm at the age of 17? The threat was too great. He didn't dare to attack the Gui Yuan sect, so he captured my father to lure me there? Tung Qingshan couldn't think of any other possibilities. How could one of the 8 great sects be so shameless? Tung Qingshan had wrongly blamed Qinghu Island. The higher-ups of Qinghu Island were not so shameless that they didn't even know about the people who captured Tung Qingshan. This was just Gu Shiyu, who was overcome by jealousy, acting on his own. Qingshan, your father and the others will be fine, right? Tung Qingshan and the others looked at Tung Qingshan. Everyone, don't worry too much. Qinghu Island is also one of the 8 great sections. They shouldn't be that shameless. Although Tung Qingshan said this matter involved his father, his family. He couldn't be at ease and immediately shouted, "Pass down the order. Gather the bodyguards in the front yard and set off immediately." "Yes, Commander." A shout came from not far away. The bodyguards in the mansion began packing their bags and weapons, preparing to set off. "Uncle, I will bring them back immediately. You must be tired after traveling for over 300 li. You should leave tomorrow morning." Tung Qingshan said. "No, I'm worried about this. Let's go together." Tung Yonglei said. Tung Qingshan nodded. "All right, we will rush back tonight. Brother, I will go with you." Tung Qingyu's eyes were slightly red. She was worried about her father who had cared for her since she was young. Immediately, Tung Qingshan returned to his room and put the reincarnation spear, the wine pot with the scarlet fruit wine, and other things into his bag. "Qinghu Island, I hope you don't lose your mind." Tung Qingshan narrowed his eyes. He turned his head and took out the human skin mask, the heavenly hawk claw gloves, the leather case with the throwing knife, and other items from the box and put them into the bag. This bag was specially made by Tung Qingshan. It contained a natural silk material, which was extremely tough. Carrying the bag, Tung Qingshan, who was wearing a green cloak, quickly left the house. He then led his sister, Tung Yonglei, and a few other bodyguards out of the mansion. After passing through the east gate, they rushed to Tung Jia village overnight. Jiangning County, in Zhuge Yuanhong's study room at night. The candlelight was dim, and there were only 2 people in the study room. One was Zhuge Yuanhong, and the other was a middle-aged man in a gray cloak. "Sovereign." The middle-aged man in a gray cloak handed over the secret letter in his hand. "This is the news from Yuzhou. It is very urgent." Zhuge Yuanhong took the letter and opened it. He frowned. "Take a look." Zhuge Yuanhong handed it over. The middle-aged man in a gray cloak read and looked at Zhuge Yuanhong in surprise. "Sovereign, the army of Qinghu Island is stationed in the Great Yin Mountain because of Emperor Yu's treasure. Ever since Emperor Yu passed away, the world fell apart. Although the rumor of Emperor Yu's treasure has been widely spread for thousands of years, No one has found Emperor Yu's treasure. Zhuge Yuanhong nodded lightly. I saw the army of Qinghu Island stationed in the Great Yin Mountain. I thought they found some mineral deposits in the Great Yin Mountain. Now, it seems that I was deceived. What was real was fake, and what was fake was real. In addition, no one had found Emperor Yu's treasure for thousands of years, so no one would connect it to that. However, this news is strange. Zhuge Yuanhong frowned and said, according to the secret letter, this news came from the royal city of Yuzhou almost instantaneously. If I am not wrong, this news should not only spread in the royal city of Yuzhou. Xiaoyao Palace, Mani Temple, Shooting Sun God Mountain, Ying Family, Hong Tian City, Snowhawk Hall, Snowhawk Sect will also spread. In the land of the 9 prefectures, the most powerful sects were the 8 supreme sections. Qinghu Island was ranked last among the 8 supreme sections. Among the 8 supreme sects, the strongest was undoubtedly Mani Temple, followed by Emperor Yu's Hall and Ying Family, and then the other 5 supreme sections. Of course, these 5 supreme sects were different. Shooting Sun God Mountain was famous for its godly bow. It was located in the southernmost Yinzhou. Even Emperor Yu's Hall and Ying Family didn't dare to provoke them. Snowhawk Sect was religious and was located in the northernmost Yinzhou. It was a bitter and cold place. They fought with the tribes of the Great Plains all year round, so their people were extremely tough. One could imagine the craziness of this sect. Sovereign, what do you mean? Someone purposely spread the news to the other 7 supreme sects? The middle-aged man wearing a gray cloak said, yes. Zhuge Yuanhong nodded and said, the news is strange. Someone must have purposely spread the news. There are 2 possibilities. First, the news about Emperor Yu's treasure is true. The person who spread the news wants to take revenge on Qinghu Island. Second, the news is fake. The person who spread the news might have other ambitions. However, since this news is widely spread and even mention Emperor Yu's treasure, I think there's a 60% chance that it is true. Zhuge Yuanhong said, Sovereign, this is Emperor Yu's treasure. Our Gui Yuan sect. The middle-aged man wearing a gray cloak was slightly jealous. Emperor Yu was the first invincible expert to unify the world and reach the highest realm. If a snake tries to swallow an elephant, it will only die. Zhuge Yuanhong smiled and said, Our Gui Yuan sect only has a few pitiful innate experts. It's not enough. Let the 8 supreme sects do whatever they want. Yuzhou Imperial City. There were 2 imperial cities in the world. One was Yu City, and the other was Qin Imperial City. In terms of history, Yu City was naturally superior. Emperor Yu's palace was located in the center of Yu City. This was the lair of Emperor Yu's Hall. Ever since the world fell apart, the core disciples and armies of Emperor Yu's Hall stayed in this palace. Fortunately, Emperor Yu's palace was very big. Hundreds of thousands of people lived in it, but it was not crowded at all. Emperor Yu's Hall, 9 Cauldrons Palace. Rows of black chairs were arranged in rows. Many experts sat on the chairs, and a black-haired man wearing a black cloak with gold inlaid sat on the throne. At this moment, the door of the 9 Cauldrons Palace was closed. Sovereign, the news that Emperor Yu's treasure is in the Great Yin Mountain of Yi City, Jiangning County, Yangzhou has spread. According to our investigation, the Mani Temple, the Ying family, and other sect have spread the news. A skinny silver-haired elder wearing a silver cloak sat on the seat of honor under the sovereign. The black-haired man sitting on the throne had crystal-like eyes that seemed to be able to see through one's soul. He smiled and said, Since the founding ancestor Emperor Yu created Emperor Yu's Hall, I am now the 129th sovereign. The founding ancestor once said that Emperor Yu's treasure is hidden at the bottom of the heavenly flood lake in Yi City, Yangzhou. All disciples of Emperor Yu's Hall are not allowed to dig it. Those who trespass will die. Only those who are fated will get it. I'm sure everyone remembers. We don't dare to disobey the founding ancestor's order. The people of the 9 Cauldrons Palace answered. In Emperor Yu's Hall, anyone who could reach the innate realm would know some of the secrets of the sect. As the oldest sect among the 8 supreme sects, Emperor Yu's hall hid many secrets. Now that Emperor Yu's treasure has been discovered, let's just watch the other 7 supreme sects fight for it. It's going to be another bloody storm. I wonder how many people will die. The upper echelons of Emperor Yu's hall were happy to watch the show. Screech, 5 snow eagles flew high above the prairie. 5 figures sat cross-legged on the backs of the snow eagles. The snow eagles spread their wings and flew rapidly towards the south. Jia, Jia. 9 figures wearing black long cloaks and golden masks rode on 9 dragon-blooded horses. The dragon-blooded horses were as fast as lightning. With just a series of shadows, the 9 figures had already disappeared at the end of the road. As the strongest of the 4 omnipotent experts since ancient times, Emperor Yu's treasure could indeed attract many experts. Some of them were from the 8 supreme sects, and some were reclusive figures. Some of them were here to fight for the treasure, and some were here to watch the show. However, no matter what their purpose was, these experts all rushed towards the Great Yin Mountain in East City. Tung Qingshan didn't know about Emperor Yu's treasure. He was worried about his father. Jia, Jia. The hooves of the horses galloped. Tung Qingshan and his sister Qingyu led a large group of people and galloped for half the night. Qingshan, we've arrived, Tung Yonglei hastily said. Tung Qingshan also saw the village in the distance. It was his hometown that he had lived in for 16 years. At this moment, torches were lit in the Tung Jia village, and the light could be seen from afar. Qingshan, maybe your father and the others have returned. Tung Yonglei could feel the worry of Tung Qingshan and his sister. The war horses galloped and quickly arrived at the gate. Open the gate, Tung Yonglei yelled. The clan members guarding the gate immediately saw who it was. Qingshan is back. Qingshan is back. The shout echoed in the dark sky of the training field. P.S. The 2nd chapter is up. Yes, there's still the 3rd chapter today. Actually, Tomato wanted a rest after writing 2 chapters today. Writing every day was indeed tiring. However, a reader told me on the internet, Tomato, I have 2 accounts every day, 12 recommendation votes for you, and 5 monthly votes. There are also other people in the supergroup supporting you. Why don't you show off? It's been a long time since you showed off. Tomato was really touched when he read this. Ever since Tomato started writing Legend of Xingfeng, many readers have supported Tomato for several years. Even though Coiling Dragon ended a long time ago, he still had recommendation votes and monthly votes. Tomato was really grateful. Today, I will write 1 more chapter. In the future, Tomato will do his best to show off frequently. It was already the end of the month. Tomato should summon his monthly votes. Yes, to write the 3rd chapter. Chapter 202. The night was as dark as ink. In the training field of Tung Jia village, torches were lit and hundreds of people gathered. The gate opened. The soldiers of the Black Armored Corps entered the training field. Tung Qingshan was the first to jump off his horse, and Qingyu followed behind him. Grandfather. Tung Qingshan was the first to rush to his grandfather, Tung Yunlong's side. Qingshan, Qingyu, come with me. Tung Yunlong pulled Tung Qingshan's arm and walked towards Tung Qingshan's house. Your mother is sick. She is resting at home. Sick? When Tung Qingshan entered the village, he felt that the atmosphere wasn't right. When he heard that his mother was sick, he had a bad feeling. When he thought of the possibility, Tung Qingshan couldn't help but feel a stabbing pain in his heart. No, this kind of thing must not happen. It must not happen either. Walking on the road home. Grandfather, is my father okay? Tung Qingshan still didn't want to believe his own speculation. Speculation was rational, but he didn't want to accept it emotionally. Grandfather. Qingyu also looked at Tung Yunlong. Tung Yunlong stopped and turned to look at Qingshan and Qingyu. He hesitated slightly and said, Your father and the others were taken away by Qinghu Island. You must have heard from Yonglei. In the evening, Qinghao came back. Brother Qinghao came back. Where's my father? Qingyu hastily asked. Qinghao said that in the evening, Qinghu Island ordered to kill all the hunters. At that time, Yongxiang risked her life and threw Qinghao out. Yongxiang was killed. As for your father, Yongfan. At that time, Yongfan was surrounded by a group of silver dragon soldiers. Qinghao didn't see Yongfan die with his own eyes. Tung Yunlong said, "Father." Qingyu's face turned pale, and tears flowed down. Tung Qingshan's body swayed slightly. He held his head and closed his eyes. After a long time, he opened his eyes, revealing a pair of slightly red eyes. "My father hasn't returned yet?" Tung Qingshan asked in a low voice. Tung Qingshan was very clear about the strength of the Silver Dragon Army's sergeants and his father's strength. He could totally imagine the situation at that time. His father had less than a 10% chance of escaping alive. If his father really managed to escape, Qinghao would return to the manor in the evening. No matter how late his father was, he should have returned to the manor by now. "He didn't come back," Tung Yunlong said. "He didn't come back?" Tung Qingshan's heart twitched, and the veins on his forehead bulged. For a moment, Tung Qingshan's mind was completely blank. Father is dead? Tung Qingshan couldn't help but press his fists against his head in pain. His whole body was trembling slightly. You don't know how precious it is until you lose it. Tung Qingshan had no parents in his previous life. He was an orphan. Therefore, in this life, he especially cherished his parents. He was very obedient to his parents. He really enjoyed the warm feeling of his parents' concern. This was something he didn't have in his previous life. This was the most precious treasure of his life. Father and mother. When Tung Qingshan was very young, he swore that he would protect his parents, let them live a good life, and let them be proud of him. Therefore, even if the gangs in East City bullied Tung Qingshan, no matter how angry he was, he endured and didn't make a move. This was for his parents and for the Worm clan, to prevent his parents from being in danger because of his recklessness. To those mounted gangsters, if they threatened the clan, he would secretly make a move. If he made a move, he would definitely kill them. He would absolutely not implicate the clan. Kill Master Hongxi. Kill the people of the White Horse Battalion. It was all the same. No one could kill his parents. No one. I won't allow it. I won't allow it. I won't allow anyone to hurt my parents, no matter who they are. The veins on Tung Qingshan's forehead bulged. In this life, ever since he was born, Tung Qingshan had never been so angry. The flames of anger had already eroded Tung Qingshan's rationality. A strong killing intent rose from the bottom of his heart. Kill them. Kill them. Kill everyone. These voices continuously roared in his mind. It set off waves of anger. Qinghu Island. Qinghu Island. Tung Qingshan's gaze was like that of a starving lone wolf, and it was unprecedentedly terrifying. Tung Yunlong, who was at the side, saw Tung Qingshan's eyes turn red, the veins on his forehead bulge, and the crazy killing intent in his eyes. He couldn't help but shout, "Qingshan, Qingshan!" Grandfather. Tung Qingshan looked at his grandfather. Tung Qingshan, who had been trained as an assassin, rarely lost control of his emotions unless his vital parts were hit. But just now, he lost control of his emotions. Of course, after Tung Qingshan realized this, he quickly restrained his anger and suppressed it in his heart. Anger, not to show it to his relatives, but to punish his enemies. "Qingyu, don't cry." Tung Yunlong held his granddaughter's hand. "Let's go and see your mother. Remember, don't cry. Comfort your mother, okay?" "Yes." Qingyu nodded while sobbing. Tung Qingshan nodded silently. He knew very well that his mother and father loved each other deeply. If something happened to his mother would be the one who suffered the most. The familiar courtyard, the familiar central room. Later, comfort your mother, Tung Yunlong said and pushed the door open. Creak. The door opened, and the dim light of the oil lamp in the side room shone. A woman wearing a red cotton coat was sitting by the bed, taking care of Yuan Lan. Tung Qingshan and his sister walked into the side room. Tung Qingshan felt his heart ache when he saw his mother's appearance. Her face was pale, her lips were pale, and her forehead was covered with sweat. Among her hair, there were many white hairs. It had only been half a year since he last saw his mother. But his mother had suddenly aged a lot. "Mother!" Qingyu couldn't help but cry. Yuan Lan, who was lying on the bed, frowned. She opened her eyes slightly and saw her son and daughter in the room. She stretched out her hands and opened her dry lips. Qing Shan, Qing Yu. Tung Qing Shan and Tung Qing Shan immediately went to the bedside and held their mother's hands. Yuan Lan looked at her son and daughter again and again. Cough, cough. Suddenly, Yuan Lan coughed, and a sickly red color appeared on her face. Mother! Qing Yu was shocked. Tung Qing Shan immediately took out the wine gourd from the bag on his back and said, Grandfather, give me a wine cup. Okay. Although Tung Yunlong didn't understand, he still took out a wine cup from the central room and handed it to Tung Qing Shan. Tung Qing Shan immediately poured half of the scarlet fruit wine into the cup. Mother, drink it, Tung Qing Shan said. Yuan Lan looked at her son, and a smile appeared on her pale face. Then, she drank the half cup of scarlet fruit wine. The scarlet fruit wine's medicinal effect wasn't strong, and it didn't harm the body. However, Tung Qing Shan was worried that his mother would be in trouble if she didn't take the nourishment. Therefore, he decided to drink less. Yuan Lan's complexion quickly became rosy, and even her yellow hair turned black. She seemed much younger. Yes, much better. Yuan Lan forced a smile. Mother! Tung Qing Shan felt bitter in his heart. He noticed that his mother's complexion became better. Indeed, after drinking the scarlet fruit wine, her body became better. However, it was difficult to cure a heart disease. Tung Qing Shan understood this point when he saw his mother's gloomy and hopeless eyes. No matter how powerful an expert was, once he felt hopeless and exhausted, he would quickly die. Spirit, qi, and spirit. A person's spirit was the most important. If one spirit was scattered, they would die. The scarlet fruit wine changed the body, but his mother, who was extremely sad, was already exhausted. Mother is very happy to see all of you. Yuan Lan smiled and said with difficulty, However, Qing Shan, Mother has no other request. I only hope that your father's corpse can be brought back. Whenever I think of your father's corpse being eaten by wild beasts in the wilderness, Mother becomes anxious. But Mother can't do anything. Yuan Lan's tears flowed down. Yes, yes, I will definitely bring father's corpse back. Tung Qing Shan nodded, unable to hold back his tears that blurred his vision. Next to the courtyard, in a room that Tung Qing Shan used to live in, Tung Qing Shan and Tung Yunlong were inside. Your mother's situation isn't good. Tung Yunlong sighed. In the past, our Tongjia village was bullied by mounted bandits, and our men died. Some women who were deeply in love were also sad, and they even died of illness very quickly. Emotional wounds are the most incurable. Tung Yunlong had seen too much. Emotional wounds that led to death were heart wounds. Heart wounds could only be healed by heart medicines. For example, Yuan Lan, who was in extreme pain, would only get better if Tung Yongfan was alive in front of her. She would only get better if she wanted to get better. I understand. Tung Qing Shan said in a deep voice, Grandfather, prepare to move the entire Tung clan to Jiangning County City. What? Tung Yunlong was shocked. It's much safer in the city. That place is the territory of the Gui Yuan sect. Tung Qing Shan took out a sheepskin bag from his bosom, opened it, and took out a stack of gold notes. Grandfather, this is 100,000 taels of gold notes. Even if we rent out some shops in the city, it would be enough to feed our clansmen. Tung Yunlong looked at the stack of gold notes and was shocked. 100,000 taels of gold was equivalent to 10 million taels of silver, an astronomical figure. Also, this is the scarlet fruit wine. I prepared it for the village. Tung Qing Shan took out the wine pot. This scarlet fruit wine can increase the strength of 1,000 jin, even for a weak woman. If a man with a strong body drinks a cup, his strength will increase by 1,000 jin. Tung Yunlong couldn't believe it. When he personally drank a cup, his strength increased by 3,000 jin. Tung Yunlong was shocked and immediately regarded the scarlet fruit wine as a treasure of the sect. Actually, with Tung Yunlong's physique, he could increase his strength by 6,000 to 7,000 jin, but he didn't drink much. That night, Tung Yunlong immediately gathered many clansmen and began to prepare for the relocation. However, There were too many things to do with the relocation of more than 2,000 people. However, under Tung Yunlong's strict request, they didn't bring many pots and pans. They only brought some clothes and ancestral memorial tablets. In the wee hours of the morning, more than 2,000 people used the war horses of the personal guards to pull some items and finally gathered. Early in the morning, the first glimmer of light shone. The clansmen were all very sad. They were reluctant to leave the ancestral land that they had lived in for generations. "Everyone, don't be sad," Tung Yunlong said loudly. "Even the great sects will be destroyed one day. In this countryside, our Tung Jia village will have to live in fear. Wait until we reach the city. Even if there is a war between sects, the civilians in the city won't be affected. Let's go, this is a good thing." Everyone understood that entering the city was a good thing. They just didn't want to leave. The people of Tung Jia village were bustling with activity as they advanced eastward. There were hundreds of brave men in the village and the personal guards of the Black Armored Corps. This protective force was enough to frighten any mounted gangster. In the area of Jiangning County, who didn't know of the Black Armored Corps, no one dared to rob the Black Armored Corps in the area of Jiangning County. Even Qing, Hu Island, didn't dare. Ever since they knew of the Gui Yuan sect's trump card, Qinghu Island wouldn't easily offend the Gui Yuan sect. At the crossroads, in front of us is the area of the Great Yin Mountain. There are no more people from Qinghu Island. "Qingyu, take good care of mother on the way," Tung Qingshan said. "Brother, what about you?" Qingyu asked worriedly. "I still have things to do. At least, I have to collect the corpses of big uncle and father," Tung Qingshan said. How could he just return to Jiangning County? The suppressed anger in his heart had already made Tung Qingshan's head explode. Tung Qingshan couldn't endure this crazy anger. "Yes," Qingyu nodded. The reason why Tung Qingshan sent the people out of the area of the Great Yin Mountain was to guard against the men of Qinghu Island. However, along the way, they didn't see a single silver dragon soldier. Over 2,000 people slowly advanced towards the east. "Qinghao!" Tung Qingshan, who was standing at the roadside, shouted. "Qingshan!" Tung Qingshan walked over. Tung Qingshan said in a deep voice, "Where are the corpses of your father and my father?" "In the gourd canyon in the south of the Great Yin Mountain. At the bottom of the canyon, there is a bottomless pit. When we went hunting in a mountain, we passed by there. Do you remember?" Tung Qinghao said. Tung Qingshan nodded. In the past, Tung Qingshan was the captain of the hunter squadron, and he was the captain for 6 years. He was very familiar with the Great Yin Mountain. There were a few bottomless pits in the Great Yin Mountain, but Tung Qingshan didn't care about them. He had seen many bottomless pits like the Heavenly Pit in his previous life. Due to the movement of the Earth's crust, some of the soil would collapse, and the so-called bottomless pits would appear. Tung Qingshan had never explored bottomless pits before. The bottomless pits of the Gourd Canyon. Tung Qingshan frowned and said, "Why is Qinghu Island looking for bottomless pits?" Tung Qinghao hastily said, "Those bastards of Qinghu Island captured a large group of hunters. They first asked us if we saw any palaces in the Great Yin Mountain. We all said we didn't know. Then they asked us if we knew any deep holes or pools that lead to the underground. We, the hunters, took them there." "Underground? Palaces?" Tung Qingshan could easily guess. Tung Qingshan walked along the Great Yin Mountain towards the west until he saw the Tung Jia village. Standing on a mountain and looking at the empty Tung Jia village, Tung Qingshan felt sad. When he was 6 years old, he lifted a 100-gene rock in this training field. His father was so excited that he almost got drunk that night. A group of people in the clan argued about whether or not to send him into the Gui Yuan sect. The first time he went hunting in the mountain, he caught a ferret and a wolf king. When he returned to the village, he could still hear the cheers of the clansmen. When he was 14 years old, the second leader of the Iron Mountain gang attacked. He blocked the attack and shocked the other party. These scenes were unforgettable. This is the root of the Tung clan. But today we must move. It is because of Qinghu Island. Everything was because of Qinghu Island. Tung Ching Shan never thought that Qinghu Island would come and capture a simple countryman. My father is dead, and my mother. Tung Ching Shan was very clear. If this continued, his mother's heart would fail and she wouldn't live for long. Father and mother. In this life, what Tung Ching Shan valued the most was even more important than his own life. And all of this was taken away by Qinghu Island. For my father and mother, I can endure. I can endure everything. Everything is gone. Tung Ching Shan suppressed the anger in his heart and roared. His eyes were slightly red. In his previous life, the death of his wife, Kitten, made Tung Ching Shan extremely crazy. In a rage, he killed his way to the Red Organization and destroyed the entire organization. In this life, Tung Ching Shan's anger was no less than the anger in his previous life. This was a vital point. This was a reverse scale. Everyone had something important. When the most precious thing was taken away, even the most gentle person would go crazy. Moreover, Tung Ching Shan was originally a lone wolf who kept his sharp claws. A wolf who spent his life killing since he was 7 years old in his previous life. At this moment, there was no need to endure anymore. The only thought in Tung Ching Shan's mind was kill, kill, kill. He would use the killer skills he learned in his previous life and kill by all means. He would use the special ability that internal martial arts gave him to kill. He would disregard everything, kill by all means. He would release all the anger in his heart. He didn't need to endure, he only needed to kill. Qinghu Island. Tung Ching Shan untied his bag and put on the human skin mask, the middle-aged man's human skin mask with a knife scar. He then put on the heavenly hawk claw gloves. The muscles and bones of his body made slight sounds. Tung Ching Shan, who was originally 7 feet 6 inches, 9 meters, reduced to 7 feet 2 inches, 8 meters. His body had become much stronger. Tung Ching Shan's eyes were cold, like a lone wolf looking deep into the mountains. He was alone. He had no other worries. Let's begin. Tung Ching Shan's entire body instantly dashed and disappeared into the forest. Chapter 203. Tung Ching Shan swiftly moved stealthily through the mountain forest. In a flash, he was already 10 zhang away. As the captain of the hunter squadron for 6 years, Tung Ching Shan knew the great Yin Mountain like the back of his hand. Whether it was climbing over the mountain, jumping off the cliff, or shuttling between the trees, the mountain path should be 40 li long. However, if Tung Ching Shan walked in a straight line, it would be less than 10 li. In the time it took to drink a cup of tea, Tung Ching Shan arrived at the Gourd Valley. Bang! The silhouette fell from the cliff of the Gourd Valley and landed heavily on the ground like a meteorite. Only Tung Ching Shan, who had such a strong body, dared to land in such an arrogant way. Although ordinary innate experts had strong innate true origin, their bodies were far weaker than Tung Ching Shan's. The innate true origin could reduce the impact, but the impact from falling from a 100 high cliff would still shock the innate experts to death, even if only half of the impact was on their bodies. Bang! A huge pit appeared where Tung Ching Shan landed. With one hand on the ground, Tung Ching Shan leaped and immediately flew towards the bottomless pit. When he was on top of the cliff, he had already discovered that there was no one else in the Gourd Valley. Soon, he arrived at the bottomless pit. Father and Uncle Yongxiang were besieged and killed here. Tung Ching Shan looked around and saw dried bloodstains everywhere on the ground. There were also some minced meat, broken bones, and pieces of steel. However, there were no corpses. This place has been cleaned up. Tung Ching Shan could tell with a careful look. There was so much blood on the ground, so many people must have died. There were also a lot of steel fragments. The only weapons that could be seen in the surroundings were the long spears. Some of the long spears were made of wood, while others were made of iron. Damascus steel spear. Tung Ching Shan saw 2 blood-stained Damascus steel spears in the distant underbrush. He immediately rushed over and picked them up. Staring at the blade mark at the bottom of the Damascus steel spear, Tung Ching Shan's pupils shrank and his heart trembled. This is father's Damascus steel spear. He had seen this weapon since he was young. How many years had it been? Of course, he could recognize it at a glance. Father's weapon was left behind. Those bastards of Qing, Hu Island. Tung Qingshan's eyes turned red, and the anger in his chest surged. There are a lot of steel fragments here. It seemed to be the heavy armor of the Silver Dragon soldiers. Moreover, there were so many broken pieces and so many bloodstains. Many people died, Tung Qingshan deduced. The fragments of the heavy armor are very neat. It's impossible for Father's Damascus steel spear to cause such a wound. It should be a sharp blade that cut through the heavy armor. How could it cut through heavy armor so thoroughly? If it was an expert, he could stab the enemy to death with a sword. He wouldn't be so bored as to cut heavy armor. He doesn't look like a human. He must have met a demon beast. Tung Qingshan looked at the broken steel wreckage, which did not seem to be made by humans at all, and judged. Tung Qingshan glanced out of the corner of his eye and saw something 100 feet away. There was a large amount of ash left after the fire. Tung Qingshan immediately walked over. A lot of wood was burned, the smell of burning corpses, and it should be cremation. Tung Qingshan could easily guess what had happened. After the Silver Dragon soldiers besieged and killed father and uncle, they encountered a powerful demonic beast. After the demonic beast killed the Silver Dragon soldiers, the other Silver Dragon soldiers came. Of course, they couldn't just watch the corpses of their brothers lying in the wilderness. Therefore, they cremated the corpses not far away. The corpses of the hunters were probably cremated as well. Some undamaged sabers and heavy armor were also taken away by the Silver Dragon soldiers. No, Tung Qingshan frowned and said, if they succeeded in killing father, they should have left immediately. Even if they encountered a demonic beast, they shouldn't have fought here. That means they should have been fighting with father. Before these soldiers could escape, they encountered the demonic beast. Where did the demonic beast come from? Tung Qingshan turned his head and looked at the bottomless pit. Phew! Tung Qingshan dashed to the side of the bottomless pit and said, in the great Yin Mountain, besides the purple radiant flood dragon in the frost jade pool, I haven't seen any other demonic beasts. He did not see any other demonic beasts. In other words, demonic beasts don't like to stay in the forest of the great Yin Mountain. It's very likely that the demonic beast is in the depths of the bottomless pit. And Qinghu Island is also looking for the underground palace. Tung Qingshan also saw the hanging tree vine beside the bottomless pit. There was still blood on the tree vine. Someone from Qinghu Island must have gone down. Tung Qingshan immediately leaped down. Phew! Phew! His rapid descent caused a gust of wind. The bottomless pit was moist and smelled of blood. Although the light inside the bottomless pit was very dark, ever since he ate the black fire spirit root and continuously developed its energy. Tung Qingshan had night vision. Tung Qingshan's hands suddenly stabbed into the rock and mud wall. The pair of hands wearing the heavenly hawk claw gloves easily pierced into the wall and clawed at the wall for more than 3 feet before stopping. There's a deep hole here. Tung Qingshan discovered that there was a deep, slanted hole on the wall above. In front of the hole, there was half a corpse embedded in the wall. The upper half of the corpse was still wearing heavy armor, but it was broken at the chest area. A demonic beast must have suddenly leaped out of the ground and instantly twisted a Silver Dragon soldier, who was climbing up the vines, into two. The powerful impact caused the upper half of the Silver Dragon soldier's corpse to be embedded in the rock and mud of the cave wall. That nightmarish scene could be clearly deduced. Tung Qingshan pulled with his hands. Phew! He fell down again. In the dark, Tung Qingshan's vision was no different from that of daytime. Although the walls of the bottomless pit were a little uneven, Tung Qingshan could see the bottom of the wall after falling for over 10 zhang. There was water. Chi-chi. When he was 1 zhang away from the bottom of the bottomless pit, Tung Qingshan forcibly stopped. So many corpses. When Tung Qingshan got close to the bottom of the pit, he discovered that the bottom of the pit was filled with water. In the water, there were faintly broken corpses floating. Each corpse was wearing heavy armor. Since the corpses were torn apart, the heavy armor was naturally broken. There's no blood in this water. It seems like it's connected to another body of water. All the blood has flowed away. The water was clear. Although it was pitch black, Tung Shan could still see the rocks at the bottom of the water. The water isn't deep? Tung Shan lightly jumped down. As expected, Tung Shan's waist was submerged in the water, but his feet were firmly planted. There's a passageway in front. Tung Shan slowly advanced along a wide waterway on the side. The water in the waterway only reached his waist and was very shallow. The waterway was 3 to 4 zhang high. The walls of the waterway were also made of rock. However, the rock walls were like a beehive, and one could often see caves. The width of the waterway varied. Some places were very wide, while others were very narrow. A demonic beast's nest? Tung Shan thought to himself. As he advanced, Tung Shan felt that the water was getting deeper. At this moment, it was already up to his neck. Tung Shan's pupil shrank. He stared at a black monster in a small cave on the wall about 10 zhang away. Dark steel centipede? Tung Shan instantly recognized it. The dark steel centipede's huge white eyes looked at Tung Shan. In the pitch-black environment of the underground waterway, even an innate master's vision was very limited. The dark steel centipede thought that Tung Shan couldn't see it, so it quietly dived into the water and slowly swam towards Tung Shan. Bastard! A cold glint flashed in Tung Shan's eyes. He pretended that he didn't see it and continued advancing. Finally, Tung Shan's entire body was submerged in the water. With the strength of Tung Shan's internal organs, it wouldn't matter even if he stayed underwater for a few hours. In terms of physical quality, he was already comparable to some powerful demonic beasts. It was pitch black in the water. The dark steel centipede's densely packed claws, which were like sharp blades, were slowly stirring the water. Its body, which seemed to be cast from iron, was twisting as it silently swam towards Tung Shan. Tung Shan also advanced by stepping on the bottom of the water. Wearing heavy armor and carrying the reincarnation spear, Tung Shan naturally sank to the bottom of the water. Whoosh! The dark steel centipede waved its claws at the same time. The underwater dark steel centipede instantly shot towards Tung Shan like a sharp arrow. The two fangs on its mouth that looked like scissors opened, intending to cut Tung Shan. Many silver dragon soldiers were cut in half by the centipede just like that. Go! The water at the bottom of the water suddenly shook. Tung Shan's hand stretched out as fast as lightning and grabbed the two fangs on the dark steel centipede's mouth. The dark steel centipede immediately let out a roar. Tung Shan's eyes turned cold as he exerted force with his hands. Two of the dark steel centipede's fangs were torn apart. Even the roots of the two fangs were torn apart, causing the dark steel centipede's entire head to split open. Green blood dyed the lake green, and the dark steel centipede immediately stopped moving. Under the condition of absolute darkness, if the experts of Qinghu Island were suddenly attacked by demonic beasts, even 1 or 2 innate experts might be killed. Tung Shan knew very well that if he didn't have night vision, he wouldn't be able to survive the sneak attack of the dark steel centipede so easily. Tung Shan swam under the water. With Tung Shan's control of his muscles and the help of the innate true origin, his swimming posture under the water could be said to be perfect. He swam quickly like a fish. He also realized that the area of the underground lake was very wide. After he swam past the waterway, he entered a vast underground lake. Even with his night vision, he couldn't see the edge of the underground lake. Absolute darkness, underwater, very good. This kind of environment was the most suitable for killing. In a waterway that Tung Shan had swum through, the walls of the waterway were like a beehive. There were many caves, all of which were unfathomably deep. In one of the caves, about 100 zhang deep, drip, a drop of milky white water seeped down for the cracks above, and occasionally a drop would fall. A body covered in blood was curled up here. His lips were barely open, catching the milky white water droplet. His entire body was motionless, as if he didn't breathe, and even his eyes were closed. However, the mouth that was trying hard to open showed that it was still alive. Lon, wait for me to go home. His firm belief echoed in his mind over and over again. P.S. I'm not in a good state today, so I tried my best to write 1 chapter. I will definitely write 3 chapters tomorrow. Chapter 204. The underground lake was dark and quiet. However, the undercurrent under the water was also turbulent. Tung Shan was like an underwater life form swimming in the water. The pores on his skin were also absorbing oxygen from the surrounding water. When Tung Shan had cultivated his body to this level, it was easy for him to control his heartbeat, blood flow, bones, and so on. Although breathing through the pores was not as fast as breathing through the mouth and nose, it was enough for him to breathe underwater. However, once he was in an intense fight, his body would consume more oxygen, and his pores would not be able to breathe fast enough. Splash! Schools of fish of various colors swam past Tung Shan's body. This underground lake is really big. I swam in one direction for about 3 li. It's actually all water. Tung Shan was shocked. This underground lake was really big. He couldn't help but praise the wonders of nature. Moreover, the water temperature seems to have changed, and the change is not small at all. When he first entered the water, Tung Shan's body felt that the water temperature was about 4 to 5 degrees Celsius. After swimming for 3 li, Tung Shan felt that the water temperature had dropped by at least 10 degrees Celsius. When he swam, he found some broken ice shards. There's only a difference of 3 li, and the water flow is connected. How can the water temperature be so different? Tung Shan felt that it was unbelievable. Logically, the connected water flows should transfer heat to each other, so the temperature should be very similar. Moreover, it didn't freeze. Strange. Tung Shan suddenly thought. The frost jade pool also became colder the deeper one went. This underground lake is about 100 zhang deep under the bottomless pit, and the bottom of the frost jade pool is about 100 zhang deep from the waist of the mountain. Both of them are at the same depth. Could the water flow be connected? Tung Shan couldn't help but guess. The same depth, and the difference in the water temperature of the underground lake was so big. Tung Shan couldn't help but speculate. Thinking of the terrifying coldness of the frost jade pool, Tung Shan was somewhat vigilant. Not to mention him, even a Golden Dan innate expert would be afraid of that purple radiant flood dragon. Splash! The sound of water splashing could be heard. Tung Shan looked in the direction of the sound. About 60 to 70 feet away, a black monster that looked like a bunker was moving rapidly along the bottom of the water. Tung Shan grabbed the bottom of the lake with both hands. Half of his body sank into the mud at the bottom of the lake. He lay low at the bottom of the lake. He had specially changed into black clothes, which were very inconspicuous at the bottom of the lake. What kind of demonic beast is this? An enlarged crab. Tung Shan stared at the moving pillbox in bewilderment. Although it was slightly different from crab, its appearance was 80% similar. However, its size was countless times larger. With a length of about 10 zhang, 25 meters, a width of about 6 zhang, 15 meters, and a height of about 3 zhang, 7 to 8 meters. Such a gigantic crab demonic beast could indeed be called a giant moving bunker when seen from the bottom of the water. In terms of size, it was 10 times larger than the transformed red-scaled beast. Voila! The 8 long and sharp claws were like wooden oars as they slapped against the water. As for the pair of front claws, in terms of size, any one of them was a few times larger than the entire red-scaled beast. Tung Shan did not doubt the killing power of the pair of front claws. Tung Shan lay at the bottom of the lake and narrowed his eyes. What are these bastards of Qinghu Island trying to do by searching for the palace at the bottom of the lake? What kind of mystical place is this lake bottom? Why is it like the desolate land, breeding such a terrifying demonic beast. This demonic beast has never been recorded in the books. However, in terms of strength, it is definitely more terrifying than the red-scaled beast. Most of the records in the books were about the demonic beasts on land. The demonic beasts under the water were usually the likes of flood dragons and pythons. As for the demonic beasts in the deep sea or mutated demonic beasts, the books didn't mention them. After swimming for about 10 li, the water temperature became even lower. During this 10 li journey, Tung Qingshan discovered 2 demonic beasts under the water. Other than the giant crab-like moving pillbox, the second demonic beast was a dark green toad. It wasn't big, only about 1 zhang long. However, as the toad swam under the water, the surrounding fishes all avoided it. Tung Qingshan didn't know the first giant crab. However, Tung Qingshan had seen this toad, demonic beast in the books, Jade Spirit Toad. There were also such demonic beasts in the desolate land. The Jade Spirit Toad was famous for its poison. The poison it spat could easily kill a Golden Dan innate expert. Of course, the innate experts wouldn't be stupid enough to swallow the poison. However, the poison was also corrosive. Even some divine weapons would be corroded to the point that a large hole would appear. A human body wouldn't be able to withstand the corrosion. Of course, other than its poison, the Jade Spirit Toad also had an amazing jumping speed. Other than its poison, corrosiveness, and jumping ability, the Jade Spirit Toad didn't have anything special. If an expert could get close to the Jade Spirit Toad, he could pierce the Jade Spirit Toad's head with a sword. Kill the Jade Spirit Toad. Of course, before the Jade Spirit Toad died, it still had an ultimate move. The numerous tumors on its body would instantly burst out a large amount of poison and spread to the surroundings. What kind of lake is this? Tung Qingshan felt that this place wasn't ordinary. Boom! Roar! Faint rumbling sounds and angry roars could be heard from afar. Tung Qingshan suddenly looked into the distance. The sound should be very far away, but I can hear it from here. The battle is very intense. It's probably the men of Qinghu Island. Tung Qingshan didn't hesitate anymore and quickly swam towards the source of the roar. He swam for 3 li. 3 li made the water temperature drop by another level. In the distance, many eye-catching lanterns could be seen floating in the water, surrounding and killing a black and yellow snake. This snake was about 3 zhang long, but its body was strangely flat. The entire snake looked like a knife. The men of Qinghu Island. Tung Qingshan could tell with one glance that the 13 lanterns were the 13 innate experts of Qinghu Island. Although the innate experts had strong innate true origin, it would be considered good if they could lift 2 to 3,000 gene. Therefore, their internal organs were very weak. Although they could hold their breath for a while, if they wanted to stay underwater for a long time, they had to use their innate true origin to create an air shield and store air to breathe. Therefore, the 13 innate experts all had innate true origin energy shields on their bodies. Some were fiery red, some were emerald green, some were gray, and some were black. They had become 13 lanterns at the bottom of the water. With the colored glow of the innate true origin, they could barely light up the surroundings. Of course, this was only the innate true origin, not real lanterns. Plus, they were underwater, so the illumination area was not big. The fiery red glow of the innate true origin could only illuminate an area of 4 to 5 zhang. The gray and black innate true origin could barely light up the surroundings. The light produced by the air shield and the strong fluctuation of energy will easily attract the attention of the demonic beasts. They can't blame anyone if they die. Tung Qingshan stared at the 13 people and demonic beasts fighting and said they encountered the iron thread saber snake. Unfortunately, the iron thread saber snake is not poisonous. Otherwise, some of the 13 people would have died. The iron thread saber snake was fast and had a flat body. At first glance, the snake looked like a huge saber. Its body was as hard and sharp as a godly weapon. It was not easy to deal with. Its only weakness was its eyes. At this moment, one of the iron thread saber snake's eyes was already blind. It was obvious that the iron thread saber snake was at a disadvantage when facing the 13 innate experts. Roar. Furious roars came from other places. Let's go. Don't fight with the iron thread saber snake. Gu Yong, who was wearing a golden cloak and had a green light shield on his body, shouted. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Immediately, the innate experts fled while Gu Yong, Zhao Danshan, and the other Golden Dan innate experts followed behind. The iron thread saber snake roared and swung its tail, escaping as well. Oomph. Tung Qingshan immediately followed the 13 innate experts of Qinghu Island. No fluctuation of energy. There was no innate true origin energy shield on the surface of his body. In the absolute darkness, the distance between the two parties was at least 30 zhang. The men of Qinghu Island couldn't even see Tang Qingshan behind them. Iron thread saber snake. The purple-cloaked lady said unwillingly, a fully matured iron thread saber snake. Its cartilage can be made into godly weapons. It can also be made into soft whips. Even the Golden Dan innate experts can't break the scales of the iron thread saber snake. It was so close to killing this iron thread saber snake. Demonic beasts were dangerous, but they were also opportunities. Junior Marshall's sister, this underground lake is too dangerous. Although this iron thread saber snake is a treasure, its roar obviously attracted the attention of other demonic beasts. We have been searching the bottom of the lake for an entire night. Until now, we have found 3 demonic beasts that can fight against Golden Dan innate experts, including this iron thread saber snake. Besides these 3, there are even more terrifying ones. The handsome young man, Zhao Danshan, said in a deep voice, the flood dragon at the coldest side is definitely the purple radiant flood dragon. If we fight with it, even if we can kill it, more than half of us will die. The conversation of the 13 people was obviously not soft. With Tung Qingshan's hearing, he could hear it clearly from 30 zhang away. Purple radiant flood dragon? Tung Qingshan frowned. They found the purple radiant flood dragon? Tung Qingshan continued to listen. One end of this underground lake is extremely cold, and the other end should be extremely hot. There is a purple radiant flood dragon in the extremely cold area. I think there is also a powerful demonic beast in the extremely hot area. The handsome young man, Zhao Danshan, said, there are many demonic beasts in this underground lake. Everyone, be careful and don't get separated. Elder One was injured by a demonic beast that hasn't even reached the innate realm. At the bottom of this lake, the demonic beasts that live in the water have an advantage over us. However, everyone, be careful. Don't force the demonic beasts to join hands. If that happens, it will be bad. Zhao Danshan said worriedly. The more powerful the demonic beast, the more intelligent it was. A demonic beast that could fight with a Golden Dan innate expert was no less intelligent than a human. If they forced the demonic beast to join hands, it was very possible. The other innate experts all agreed. Gu Yong said, we have searched the west and south sides of this underground lake, but we haven't searched the large area in the north. Everyone, search carefully and see if Emperor Yu's palace is there. Immediately, the 13 inborn experts headed towards the north to search for him. Underground lake? Emperor Yu's palace? Tung Qingshan, who was following behind, was shocked. He finally knew what Qinghu Island was looking for. No wonder this underground lake could give birth to so many demonic beasts. Since Emperor Yu was involved, nothing was impossible. Tung Qingshan immediately swam quietly and followed the 13 innate experts. The 13 lanterns were in the dark water, so he didn't have to worry about losing them. Chapter 205. As they advanced underwater, the 13 innate experts of Qinghu Island encountered 2 demonic beasts. One of the demonic beasts escaped quickly, while the other was a fish-type demonic beast that wanted to sneak attack, but was killed by Gu Yong. Tung Qingshan didn't know the name of the demonic beast, but it seemed like it wasn't very strong. There's a huge difference between demonic beasts. Tung Qingshan sighed to himself. For example, the red-scaled beast, the dark steel centipede, and the ordinary steel arms monkey before it transformed were as strong as the experts of the Earth ranking, or even slightly stronger. As for the transformed red-scaled beast, the tall steel arms monkey, and the fish-type demonic beast, they should be as strong as the emptiness Dan of the innate realm or true Dan of the innate realm. As for the steel arms monkey king and the steel wire saber snake, they should be as strong as the golden Dan of the innate realm. As for the purple radiant flood dragon, it was even stronger than the golden Dan of the innate realm. Maybe the top few experts of the heavenly ranking could fight against the purple radiant flood dragon. Some beasts were born with a stronger physique than humans. In an environment with the same amount of spiritual chi of the heavens and the earth, powerful beasts could be born, and powerful beasts could also be born. Demonic beasts. These demonic beasts, with intelligence, could reach an unimaginable realm. Of course, there was still a difference between demonic beasts and humans. Humans had invincible existences like Emperor Yu, Heavenly Emperor Qin Ling, martial ancestor Shiga, and poetic sword godly Tai Bai. Although there were terrifying experts among the demonic beasts, they were still slightly weaker than Emperor Yu and the others. Island Lord, what's in front? After advancing underwater for more than an hour, the 13 innate experts of Qinghu Island suddenly found a section of an underwater building. Because it was pitch black, they could only see with the halo of the innate true origin. Even with the halo of the 13 innate experts, they could only see a distance of 10 zhang. Within a range of 10 zhang, an underwater building about 2 zhang high and an unknown length appeared in their vision. The surface of the building was covered with mud and aquatic plants. Let me see. Zhao Danshan walked over and waved his hand. Immediately, a golden innate true origin flew out of his hand and hit the surface of the building like a cattail leaf fan. Then, it suddenly exploded. Rumble, a deep sound reverberated through the air. The mud on the surface of the underwater building was also sent flying by the force of the explosion of the innate true origin. Immediately, the surrounding water became murky. However, in this murky water, the 13 innate experts of Qinghu Island approached the surface of the underwater building and took a closer look. What material is this? Green walls? The 13 innate experts of Qinghu Island were dumbfounded. Unbelievable. He didn't know how many years had passed under the tremendous pressure at the bottom of the lake. There's not even a scratch on this wall. Island Lord, look, this wall is actually one piece. It wasn't built piece by piece. Impossible. We can see that there's a wall that's nearly 100 feet wide, but the entire wall was one. Green walls? It's not stone, it's not steel. What is it? This must be Emperor Yu's palace. It must be. Just one wall was enough to stun the 13 innate experts. They had never seen such a material in the land of the 9 prefectures. Quick, go and find the door of this palace. The 13 innate experts immediately walked along the wall. When the 13 people left, Tung Qingshan also came to the side of the wall. Emperor Yu's palace? Tung Qingshan examined the wall carefully and even touched it with his hand. It was smooth and cold. It's as smooth as the tiles in my previous life. The strangest thing is the entire wall is one piece. There's no gap at all. Tung Qingshan glanced at the top of the underwater palace and said, plus, Zhao Danshan's innate true origin didn't even leave a small hole on the top. Tung Qingshan felt that it was unbelievable. Teacher once said that the demonic monk Xiang Fanshan was invincible in the world. But compared to Emperor Yu and the others, there's still a gap. Emperor Yu and the others could single-handedly conquer the world. Unify the world. Tung Qingshan remembered clearly. Unify the world single-handedly. What methods did Emperor Yu and the others have? How could they build such an incredible palace? If this palace is Emperor Yu's palace, then it's too terrifying. Emperor Yu is a figure from thousands of years ago. In other words, this palace had existed underwater for thousands of years, but the walls were not damaged at all. Even a modern society of his previous life couldn't do this. This palace couldn't have been built with a large number of people. Tung Shan was very sure. Could it be that Emperor Yu built it himself? Tung Shan really didn't understand the methods of the ancient Emperor Yu. However, to be able to destroy a huge mountain with 5 strikes of the axe, it was indeed the method of the heavenly gods. At this moment, the 13 men of Qinghu Island had already walked 70 zhang away. Tung Shan immediately followed. As time passed, the 13 innate experts of Qinghu Island were shocked to find that the underwater palace was actually very big. The palace gate. Island Lord, the palace gate is in front. The experts of Qinghu Island were slightly excited. Tung Shan also looked at the palace gate from afar. The men of Qinghu Island could only see it when they got closer. However, Tung Shan could see it clearly even though he was tens of zhang away. The palace gate was 30 zhang wide, and there was a tall, square-shaped object that looked like a stone tablet in front of the palace gate. Zhao Danshan came before the stone tablet and wiped it with his right hand. Buzz! The mud completely dispersed. An azure-green stone tablet was revealed. On the stone tablet, there were 4 big words: Heavenly Flood Palace. Heavenly Flood Palace. Gu Yong, who also came closer, looked at the 4 words in confusion. Island Lord. Zhao Danshan smiled and said, Emperor Yu and the others all reached the highest realm, the shattering void realm, and reached the state of self-perfection. This heavenly flood palace should have been built by Emperor Yu. Besides the 4 omnipotent experts in history, no one could use the power of the heavens and the earth to build this palace. Even Emperor Yu probably spent a lot of effort to build it. Tung Shan, who was far away, listened carefully. The highest realm? Shattering void realm? Self-perfection? Tung Shan was confused. The emptiness realm was the highest realm in the land of the 9 prefectures. Of course, without the 4 omnipotent experts, Emperor Yu and Heavenly Emperor Qinling, the emptiness realm was the highest realm. Sigh, I can't even reach the emptiness realm, not to mention Emperor Yu and the others, who were at the highest level. Gu Yong sighed and said, a mountain over 1,000 zhang was chopped down with 5 strikes of the axe. A raging river over 100 zhang was cut off with 1 palm strike. A magnificent army is just child's play in front of them. If they want to unify the world, they can unify the world. They are absolutely invincible. Zhao Danshan also sighed and said, the emptiness of the emptiness realm is the emptiness of the void, and also the emptiness of nothingness. The body is perfectly round, and the mind enters the void. The inside of the body is perfectly round, and the void is infinite. The outside world is boundless, and the world is also a void, vast and boundless. Life perfection, breaking through the void and reaching the highest realm. Anyone can say that, but it is too difficult to reach. Gu Yong shook his head and sighed. We can't even touch the edge of the emptiness realm, let alone the level of Emperor Yu and the others. Not to mention the level of Emperor Yu and the others. Zhao Danshan also sighed. That level was too far away. Tung Shan also remembered these words. Let's go in. Gu Yong and the other 13 people immediately approached the palace gate. Buzz! When the 13 people approached the palace gate, the entire palace gate suddenly emitted a golden light. Stop! Gu Yong hastily shouted. The 13 people stood outside the palace gate, not daring to go in. Roar! A deep roar came from inside Emperor Yu's palace. The roar entered the ears and even shook the souls of people. When the 13 innate experts of Qinghu Island heard this, they retreated several zhang and gathered together, staring at the palace gate of the Heavenly Flood Palace. A golden turtle about 3 zhang long appeared at the palace gate. Golden dragon turtle? Among the 13 people of Qinghu Island, a few people couldn't help but shout, Dragon turtle? Golden dragon turtle? Tung Shan also widened his eyes as he stared at the dragon turtle that was only 3 zhang long. Dragon turtle, the demonic beast with the strongest defense among the known demonic beasts. It has great strength. All mature dragon turtles are usually azure and dozens of zhang long, like a small mountain. If a golden Dan innate expert encountered one, he might be able to fight it. However, once the azure dragon turtle transformed into a golden dragon turtle, its body would shrink rapidly and turn into a golden dragon turtle that was 3 to 4 zhang long. If it encountered it, there was only one thing to do. Run. Golden dragon turtle. Tung Qingshan was secretly happy. Oof. Qinghu Island's bastard. How could it be so easy to enter Emperor Yu's palace? This golden dragon turtle is probably comparable to a human emptiness realm expert. The island lord of Qinghu Island, Guyong, took a step forward and bowed. Senior dragon turtle, we obtained Emperor Yu's treasure map and came here to take the treasure under Emperor Yu's orders. Senior dragon turtle, please let us in. As he spoke, he took out the black iron treasure map and pointed at the palace. Demonic beasts were extremely intelligent. It must have existed for countless years to transform into a golden dragon turtle. This dragon turtle was probably already in this world when Emperor Yu was still alive. Therefore, they couldn't force their way in. They could only rely on soft methods. Maybe the golden dragon turtle would really let them in. However, the golden dragon turtle roared deeply and suddenly opened its mouth. Boom! A strong stream of air gushed out from its mouth. Immediately, 3 balls of air, visible to the naked eye, shot towards the 13 experts of Qinghu Island at lightning speed. It should be known that the golden dragon turtle was extremely strong and had an invincible defense. A breath of air from an ordinary human could blow a piece of paper. However, a breath of air from this golden dragon turtle could shatter a huge rock. Of course, the breath of air was only a warning. The golden dragon turtle was too lazy to attack. Boom! 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 The water surged, and 3 balls of air shot over. Dodge! Guyong shouted. However, the speed of the balls of air was too fast. 2 innate experts couldn't dodge in time. Bang! Bang! The 2 of them used their sabers to block the balls of air. The 2 of them were sent flying in 2 different directions. The gray-cloaked elder Lien was sent flying towards Tung Qingshan. Boom! The gray-robed elder Lien's entire body was sent flying several tens of feet away from the impact. This golden dragon turtle can hurt me with just a breath of air. Elder Lien felt that it was unbelievable. He was a true Dan innate expert after all. Suddenly, Elder Lien felt the water behind him surge. He couldn't help but shudder. He hastily dodged and turned his head. Poochie, an afterimage pierced through his head. Ah! A shrill scream sounded. Before Elder Lien died, he only saw a pair of fierce eyes filled with killing intent. Tung Qingshan pulled his hand out from Elder Lien's hand. The first one is a true Dan innate expert. Tung Qingshan immediately retreated quietly. In absolute darkness, no one would be able to discover Tung Qingshan if he didn't use his innate true origin. He was definitely the most terrifying killer. Hearing the shrill scream, Guyong and the others were shocked. Let's retreat first, Guyong hastily shouted. They didn't dare to fight against the golden dragon turtle. The golden dragon turtle's glowing green eyes swept across the group of people. It raised its head and roared loudly. Roar! The roar spread. Instantly, roar, roar, roar. Roars sounded from within Emperor Yu's palace in response to the roar of the golden dragon turtle. Hearing this roar, the expressions of Guyong and the other innate experts changed drastically. Oh my God, this is an Emperor Yu's palace. This is the lair of the demonic beasts. The purple-cloaked woman widened her eyes. Chapter 206. The golden dragon turtle's glowing green eyes glanced at the humans in front of it. Its eyes were filled with arrogance and disdain. Let's go. Let's go. Zhao Danshan said. The 12 innate experts immediately retreated towards the place where the scream came from. Soon, they found a corpse in the mud at the bottom of the lake. Obviously, the dead elder Lien was pushed back about 23 zhang by the ball of air. The impact of the ball of air was shocking. Fortunately, It was a ball of air, and the force was not concentrated. If it was a chi blade or sword, the impact of the ball of air was enough to kill an innate expert. Elder Lien is dead, Gu Yong said in a low voice. Junior brother, Martial Uncle Lien. A few elders knelt beside the corpse. Some of these law-enforcing elders had spent more time with their family than with their martial brothers. They had learned martial arts since they were young and had a deep bond with their martial brothers. Elder Lien's death made many elders grieve. It's a claw wound. Elder Lien's head was instantly pierced through. Zhao Danshan observed Elder Lien's head and said, "The shape is not neat. One claw directly pierced through. It should be a demonic beast with sharp claws. Its body size should not be big," Gu Yong said in a low voice. In their opinion, if it were a human, they would first have to put up an innate true essence barrier at the bottom of the lake. Naturally, they would be discovered from afar. It was impossible for Elder Lien to only scream. Secondly, when humans kill, they usually use weapons such as swords and sabers. The wound was not neat and looked like a claw wound. What demonic beast is it? Island Lord, find that demonic beast and kill it to avenge Martial Uncle Lien. A brawny man in a black robe roared. I can't be sure just by looking at the claw wound. Gu Yong said, moreover, there are some demonic beasts that have not been seen in the outside world for thousands of years. The dead are dead. Revenge depends on the opportunity. However, we cannot be careless and let the demonic beasts sneak attack us. At the bottom of the water, the demonic beasts were silent. Moreover, they could see very far in the pitch-black environment, but we can't. All the elders were secretly shocked. In the pitch-black environment, demonic beasts could use their limbs to swim silently and sneak attack. If he was not careful and was alone, he could easily be killed. Gu Yong looked around at everyone. Elders, we can't be careless at the bottom of the lake no matter what. We've been here for a long time. We need to go up and take a breather. We also need to think about how we're going to enter this heavenly flood palace. Let's go back to the cave entrance first. Immediately, the 12 Unborn experts turned back with Elder Lien's corpse. As Tung Qingshan watched the 12 lanterns leave, he couldn't help but turn his head and look at the heavenly flood palace that was dozens of zhang away. In Tung Qingshan's vision, the heavenly flood palace was like a huge green monster lying on the bottom of the water, making people's hearts palpitate. The green eyes of the golden dragon turtle at the entrance of the palace were staring at Tung Qingshan. It saw me. Tung Qingshan was shocked. If he could see the golden dragon turtle, then the golden dragon turtle, which could also see in the dark, could probably see him as well. Roar! The golden dragon turtle let out a very soft roar as it continued to lie at the entrance of the palace. Tung Qingshan felt the golden dragon turtle seemed to be kind to him. It wasn't as fierce as it was to the men of Qinghu Island. This golden dragon turtle is an unparalleled and terrifying demonic beast. It's even stronger than the purple radiant flood dragon. Since it's guarding the heavenly flood palace, it should be the most terrifying demonic beast at the bottom of the lake. No matter what, I will still avoid it. Otherwise, it will kill me with one move, and I won't be able to do anything. Tung Qingshan didn't dare to provoke this demonic beast that was even more terrifying than the purple radiant flood dragon. He immediately fled far away and followed the 12 men of Qinghu Island. Actually, when Tung Qingshan recalled the time when he dived into the frost jade pool, he felt a lingering fear. Back then, he had lived in Tongjia village since he was young. He knew too little about the land of the 9 prefectures. As the saying goes, the ignorant are fearless. Back then, the strongest plan succeeded and he recovered his Grandmaster realm. He thought that he was strong enough and dared to provoke the purple radiant flood dragon. Fortunately, he jumped off the cliff and escaped quickly. Otherwise, he might have been killed by the purple radiant flood dragon. Tung Qingshan tailed the men of Qinghu Island silently. At such a distance, the men of Qinghu Island wouldn't be able to discover him. It must be said that the speed of the innate experts of Qinghu Island was much slower in the water than on land. Tung Qingshan's body seemed to be boneless. His legs swayed slightly, and he occasionally borrowed strength from his hands. His entire body moved like a fish. In terms of ability to move underwater, the innate experts couldn't even catch up to 1/10 of Tung Chingshan. The innate experts only consumed their innate true origin when they traveled underwater. Tung Chingshan traveled in a straight line for more than an hour. Splash! The innate experts of Qinghu Island emerged from the water one by one and moved forward along the cave that extended in all directions. Tung Chingshan's eyes emerged from the water and looked at the men of Qinghu Island who were tens of zhang away until they turned a corner. Tung Chingshan continued to follow. When he was completely out of the water, Tung Chingshan suddenly lay down and pressed his ear against the rocky ground. They should be on the left side of the corner, about 20 zhang, 25 zhang, 30 zhang. Yes, they stopped. Tung Chingshan stood up and moved forward quietly. He arrived at the corner and thought to himself, there might be an ambush at the corner. He leaped lightly and inserted his hands into the rock wall at the top of the waterway. His hands, legs, and abdomen stuck to the cliff wall. He was like a gecko stuck to the top of the rock wall. At the top, Tung Chingshan could clearly see the corner of the cave. Tung Chingshan overestimated the men of Qinghu Island. The experts of Qinghu Island didn't think that someone would follow them. They also didn't suspect that the person who killed Elder Lien was a human. Therefore, there was no ambush at the corner. 30 zhang away, the 12 innate experts of Qinghu Island were sitting on chairs and resting. They really know how to enjoy themselves. Tung Chingshan sneered. The men of Qinghu Island had already sent chairs, tables, food, and wine to the bottom of the bottomless pit. Gu Yong and the others didn't even need to climb to the top of the bottomless pit to rest. The 12 men of Qinghu Island weren't in the mood to drink. Elder Lien's death and the existence of the golden dragon turtle made them feel irritated. Gu Yong opened his mouth and said, Elders, it's been almost 16 hours since last night. Everyone hasn't had a good rest. Later, we will go up and deal with Elder Lien's corpse. Then, we'll have a good rest and have lunch. We will continue to enter the bottom of the lake in the evening. Enter the bottom of the lake? So what if we go in? There is a golden dragon turtle at the entrance of the Heavenly Flood Palace. The muscular man wearing a black cloak said in a deep voice, Golden dragon turtle. According to the books, it has great strength. It can easily blow a true Dan innate expert over 20 zhang away with 3 breaths. And this is just the strength of the breath. If it waved its claw, even a golden Dan innate expert would definitely die. A white-haired elder wearing a white cloak sighed. Among the demonic beasts, the golden dragon turtle is considered the demonic beast with the strongest defense. Even if we hit it there, we wouldn't be able to hurt it. Everyone was slightly discouraged. There were emptiness realm experts among humans, and there were also emptiness realm experts among demonic beasts. Of course, since ancient times, the most powerful demonic beast was only comparable to an emptiness realm expert. None of the demonic beasts could reach the level of Emperor Yu and Heavenly Emperor Qin, Ling demonic beasts that reached the emptiness realm. There was another name, Godly Beast. People were very respectful to demonic beasts of this level and didn't want to provoke them. Today, the golden dragon turtle was just a reminder. It breathed a few breaths. Next time, if the golden dragon turtle becomes angry out of humiliation, it will probably attack. Yuan Lufeng frowned and said, The dragon turtle is a demonic beast with strong defense, but slow movement. However, that refers to the azure dragon turtle that was over 10 zhang in size, like a small mountain. As for the azure dragon turtle, when it transforms into the golden dragon turtle and becomes 3 to 4 zhang in size, its speed will also become faster. Maybe it won't be as fast as some demonic beasts that are good at speed. However, at least it won't be slower than us. Without the weakness of slow speed, the golden dragon turtle was indeed an invincible existence. Zhao Danshan sneered and said, If we really fight, none of the 12 of us will be able to survive. When Tung Chingshan heard the anxious and helpless expressions of the men of Qinghu Island, he sneered and thought to himself, So what if you spent a lot of effort to get the treasure map? Just the golden dragon turtle alone is enough to render you helpless. It's best to let the emptiness realm expert of Qinghu Island come over. Fight with the golden dragon turtle. Tung Qingshan was looking forward to that scene. If the emptiness realm expert and the golden dragon turtle fought, it would be hard to say who would survive. If the emptiness realm expert of Qinghu Island died, Tung Qingshan would be very happy. However, Qinghu Island was not stupid enough to gamble with their most important pillar. Island Lord, Island Lord. At this moment, a shout was heard. Tung Qingshan immediately turned to look. A figure grabbed the vines and jumped to the bottom. What happened? Why are you so anxious? Guyong frowned. The other 11 innate experts also looked at this young disciple. The young disciple said hurriedly, "This morning, the men of Qinghu Island rushed to the Great Yin Mountain. They said that there is a rumor in the world that the army of Qinghu Island is stationed in the Great Yin Mountain. It is because they want to excavate Emperor Yu's treasure. Messenger pigeons could be used to send messages between cities. The army of Qinghu Island also brought messenger pigeons. However, none of the strongholds of Qinghu Island had trained messenger pigeons to rush to the Great Yin Mountain. Naturally, they could only send messages on horseback. As a result, their speed was slower. The Gui Yuan sect knew about it last night, but the army of Qinghu Island only knew about it this morning. They could only notify the island Lord Guyong and the others when they came out of the water. What? Guyong's facial expression changed drastically. Who said that? Zhao Danshan, who had always been calm, shouted with a fierce look in his eyes. The young disciple was shocked and hastily said, "It is spreading in the world now. I think everyone knows about it." Everyone knows, Guyong murmured. He was completely shocked by the words, "everyone knows about it." The other 11 innate experts couldn't stay calm anymore. It is spreading in the world? Everyone knows about it? Tung Qingshan, who was like a gecko stuck to the rock wall, was slightly stunned when he heard this shocking news. Today's update was a bit late, but 3 chapters were finally completed. It was already October 31st, the last day of the month. If you don't vote, the monthly votes will expire. I hope everyone votes for Tomato before the expiration. The following plot will get more and more exciting. Everyone, be more enthusiastic about the monthly votes. Voting method. Click on the words "Recommend the author" for monthly votes below. Click on it, and your strength will increase by 10 gene. If you want to become stronger, click on it. Chapter 207. Everyone knows? Very good. Tung Qingshan squinted his eyes, and a cold light flashed as he said, "Emperor Yu's treasure is very attractive. There are also some hidden experts. Once they got the news, even if they weren't sure, they would still come to investigate. A large number of experts have gathered here. This is enough to make Qinghu Island suffer." Because of his parents, Tung Qingshan was filled with murderous intent towards Qinghu Island. There was no room for negotiation. However, if all the innate experts of Qinghu Island gathered together, Tung Qingshan wouldn't even have the chance to make a move. Fishing in troubled waters. The more innate experts there were, the more chaotic the situation would be, and the easier it would be for Tung Qingshan to intervene. Even Tung Qingshan could foresee Qinghu Island's predicament. Guyong and the other 12 innate experts could also imagine how the people of the world would react if they knew this secret. At the thought of their predicament, Guyong and the others became worried. Who spread this news? Zhao Danshan's sword-like eyebrows furrowed, and his gaze swept across the surroundings. Guyong took a deep breath, narrowed his eyes, and said slowly in a deep voice, "Qinghu Island has only obtained this treasure map a few days ago. Moreover, only the higher-ups of Qinghu Island know this secret. Although many soldiers were ordered to capture people, they didn't know the secret of Emperor Yu's treasure. The person who leaked the information was not someone from Qinghu Island." Tai Hall. The brawny man in the black robe's rough voice sounded. He gritted his teeth and said, "It must be the bastards of Tai Hall. That Tai Hall's sovereign Nerong and the enforcement elders were all killed by us. The important elders and commanders were all killed. Not a single one escaped. Could it be that the news of Emperor Yu's hidden treasure map is also known by some low-status members of Tai Hall? The purple-robed woman frowned and said, "The remaining members of Tai Hall have a low status. Logically speaking, you have no right to know this secret." Yuan Lufeng sneered. "But if this is Nie Rong's revenge move, then it is possible." "Elder Yuan, you're saying that Nie Rong purposely threw his life away and offered up the treasure map? Aren't they worried that we will get Emperor Yu's treasure and make Qing Hu Island stronger? Your argument doesn't hold water. The way I see it, Nie Rong didn't want to die. He died, and the treasure map came to us. The surviving members of Tai Hall were not willing to accept this. So they publicized the news and caused great trouble to Qing Hu Island." All the inborn experts started arguing. "All right," Gu Yong scolded angrily, his cold gaze sweeping across the crowd. "This matter is most likely the revenge of the remnants of Tai Hall. What we need to prepare now is how to deal with the experts of the major sects that are coming. Based on the speed of the innate rancors, the war horses they are riding on are at least the dark demonic horse or dragon-blooded horse. If they had set off yesterday after receiving the news, there should be some rancors here today. The 3 dragon horses were all top-notch divine steeds that could travel 5,000 miles a day. Moreover, other than the 3 dragon horses, some sects also had special mounts for the innate experts. For example, some tamed beasts. Although demonic beasts were difficult to tame, among the hundreds and thousands of demonic beasts, there were still a few that could be tamed through special methods. As for the taming method, it was a secret that some sects did not divulge to outsiders. The speed of some powerful demonic beasts was not any slower than the 3 dragon horses. "Let's go up," Gu Yong shouted. Immediately, the 12 innate experts shot up to the sky like lightning. Occasionally, they would borrow the strength of the vines. In an instant, the 12 innate experts jumped out of the bottomless pit and set up a military tent at the location of the bottomless pit. Under the cover of the military tent, no one from the outside would know that the location of the military tent was the location of the bottomless pit. At the corner of the waterway at the bottom of the bottomless pit, Tung Qingshan leaned against the damp rock wall and took off the bag on his back. He untied the tightly tied rope at the opening of the bag. Because the bag was specially made by Tung Qingshan, it was made with natural silk, and the outer layer was made of leather. It was absolutely waterproof. Taking out some flatbread, Tung Qingshan ate some. Although Tung Qingshan could not eat for a period of time, eating food could strengthen his qi and blood and make his mind clear. In the depths of the damp cave, a body covered in blood laid on the cold ground. It was the heavily injured Tung Yongfan. Drip! A milky white liquid slowly emerged from the crack on the rock wall. After a long time, a drop dripped down. Ting Yongfan closed his eyes and opened his mouth, waiting for this drop of water. Actually, it was very easy to drink water to replenish one's body in this deep underground place. In this damp cave, there were some small pits with some water. However, to the current Ting Yongfan, drinking water didn't have much effect. The milky white liquid that he drank after a long time had a special effect. Tung Yongfan, who was motionless, was very clear-headed. Suddenly, Tung Yongfan's eyes suddenly opened. His eyes were filled with endless desire and determination. "The heavens haven't given up on me." Ting Yongfan looked at the crack on the cliff above his head. He could still clearly remember the process from yesterday evening until now. Originally, he was prepared to perish together with the silver dragon soldiers. However, the sudden appearance of the demonic beast Darksteel Centipede gave Ting Yongfan a chance of survival. Those soldiers were facing a life and death crisis, so how could they care about Ting Yongfan? Ting Yongfan knew very well that he couldn't control his lower body and couldn't escape the Silver Dragon Soldiers' territory. Not to mention the Silver Dragon Soldiers. Even the Darksteel Centipede would be able to kill him. Therefore, Ting Yongfan clenched his teeth and used his arms to support himself and jumped towards the bottomless pit. Even though he was so resolute, half of his leg was still torn off by the Darksteel Centipede. However, the Darksteel centipede that went to kill a large number of silver dragon soldiers gave Ting Yongfan enough time to escape to the bottom of the pit. At the bottom of the waterway, Ting Yongfan lost a lot of blood. He had no choice but to use a piece of cloth to tie the broken part of his left thigh, to stop the blood from flowing out. At the bottom of the ice-cold waterway, there were many densely packed caves, like a beehive. Relying on his nose, Ting Yongfan chose a cave that didn't have any fishy smell from the Darksteel centipede. No fishy smell meant that the Darksteel centipede rarely entered this cave. Ting Yongfan crawled almost 100 zhang deep into the cave in one breath. Ting Yongfan, who had lost a lot of blood, was so tired that he fainted. Without food and blood loss, Ting Yongfan, who was dizzy and weak, wanted to crawl to the exit of the bottomless pit with his 2 arms. It was impossible. The heavens didn't kill me. I didn't expect that this milky white water droplet would have such an effect. Ting Yongfan sighed in his heart. After escaping into the cave and fainting, he woke up not long after. The reason why he woke up was because the milky white water droplet fell on his hand. The bone-piercing coldness woke Ting Yongfan up from the cold. This milky white water droplet was extremely cold. Ting Yongfan tried to drink a drop and felt the coldness spread throughout his body. His originally exhausted and weak body actually gradually recovered its strength. Moreover, this coldness caused his dizziness due to the loss of blood to sober up. After a night, Ting Yongfan felt that his strength had recovered a lot. The reason why he didn't move was to conserve his strength. I haven't eaten anything for a long time. This milky white water droplet is special, but it can't solve my hunger. Ting Yongfan was very clear. No matter how miraculous an item is, its effect is limited. Without food, I lost so much blood. My strength will only gradually decrease. If I don't leave now, I'm afraid that I won't have the time to escape after a long time. Using his arms as legs, he slowly moved forward. There are so many caves in this waterway. There's probably more than one demonic beast. Once I'm discovered by the demonic beast, I'll definitely die. Ting Yongfan moved forward very carefully. He guessed that the reason why the silver dragon soldiers who went down to investigate were chased by the demonic beast. They probably made a big commotion and were discovered by the demonic beast. He slowly moved forward. After a long time, Ting Yongfan was only 5 to 6 zhang away from the entrance of the cave. After this 5 to 6 zhang, he would enter the waterway. Voila! Suddenly, the sound of flowing water came. Ting Yongfan was shocked and didn't move an inch. At a distance of 5 to 6 zhang, Ting Yongfan could barely see a black shadow passing through the entrance of the cave. A fishy smell pervaded the air. Smelling this fishy smell, Ting Yongfan's facial expression changed drastically. It's that demonic beast. Ting Yongfan would never forget this fishy smell for the rest of his life. This was the fishy smell of the Darksteel centipede. Obviously, he guessed correctly. There was more than one Darksteel centipede living in this densely packed cave. Ting Yongfan was a small figure, so he had to struggle for his life. The innate experts who stood at the top of the 9 prefectures were jealous and crazy for Emperor Yu's treasure. At the foot of the Great Yin Mountain, Brother Wang, in my opinion, with Guyang's temperament, it would be difficult for Qinghu Island to let us have a share of the loot. An elegant middle-aged man, wearing a purple cloak, said with a smile. The back of the cloak was embroidered with a Qingfeng sword. He was walking on the official road with his 2 legs. Like him, there were 5 other people walking on the official road empty-handed. Aside from the 6 of them, there were 5 other men wearing scale armors and leading black wolves. The 5 black wolves led by these 5 men were one size bigger than ordinary war horses. Elder Sure, the man leading the black wolves, was a strong man with 4 braids. This is the trend. How can Qinghu Island stop them? However, it's hard to say whether Emperor Yu's treasure is real or not. Your Xiao Yao Palace and the Shooting Sun God Mountain will join hands and force their way into the mountain. If Guyong doesn't dare to let us go in and search, then Emperor Yu's treasure is real. At this moment, the sound of hooves could be heard. Dozens of war horses rushed over from behind. Honorable Sir, The dozens of horsemen jumped down. One of them knelt down on one knee and greeted respectfully. The strong man with 4 braids and scale armor cast a disdainful glance at him and said coldly, "The news from the God Mountain should have reached Jiangning County City this morning. The disciples of Xiao Yao Palace had already taken their elders' war horses away. But you guys only arrived now." Beads of sweat appeared on the forehead of the leader, but he didn't dare to argue. "Take the 5 ink wolves away. Take good care of them. If they don't do their job well..." The strong man humphed and said, "Go." "Yes, honorable sir." The leader respectfully arranged for his men to lead the 5 ink wolves away. The Shooting Sun God Mountain was located in Yinzhou. It was the #1 sect in Yinzhou. Yinzhou was the southernmost province in the land of the 9 prefectures. It had many forests and was close to the desolate land. Taming ink wolves was one of the biggest secrets of the Shooting Sun God Mountain. Every ink wolf was very precious. The dozens of people took the 5 ink wolves and left quickly. The 11 experts of Xiao Yao Palace and the Shooting Sun God Mountain stepped into the mountain and advanced for a while. Look up in the sky. A bald, skinny man of the Shooting Sun God Mountain, carrying a black bow on his back, looked up at the sky. Immediately, the other 10 experts looked up at the sky. They saw 5 snow eagles circling slowly in the sky above the Great Yin Mountain. The snow eagles are really fast. Even though they are far away in Yinzhou, the people of the Snow Eagle Hall have already arrived. A bald elder wearing a purple cloak said with a smile. Chapter 208. The army of Qinghu Island camped around the bottomless pit. Thousands of tents were scattered around. Patrolling teams of the Silver Dragon Army guarded the surroundings. Most of the Silver Dragon Army soldiers were resting. "Oh Lord, look! The Snow Eagles of Snowhawk Hall." The 12 experts of Qinghu Island had just cremated Elder Lien and collected his ashes. They were eating in the open air. Snow eagles? Everyone put down their chopsticks and wine glasses and looked up. On the backs of the 5 gigantic snow eagles circling in the sky, even with the vision of an innate expert, they could see a figure sitting cross-legged on the backs of the snow eagles. The snow eagles must be very big to be able to let people sit on their backs. They're indeed the snow eagles of Snowhawk Hall. Gu Yong frowned. Zhao Danshan's eyes were sharp as he sneered. The people of Snowhawk Hall are a bunch of wild dogs. When the news of Emperor Yu's treasure spread, they rushed here overnight. Yinzhou, the northernmost region, actually arrived so early. No wonder Zhao Danshan was angry. The death of Elder Lien and the existence of the golden dragon turtle had already troubled the people of Qinghu Island. Now that the news of Snowhawk Hall's arrival had spread to the entire world, it naturally made things worse. The 5 snow eagles were still hovering high in the sky. "Elders, get ready. I'm afraid the people of Snowhawk Hall will arrive soon." Gu Yong squinted his eyes like a python's cold eyes. Suddenly, "Friends of Snowhawk Hall," a clear voice rang from the Great Yin Mountain. "If you don't mind, come with us." "Yo!" A loud voice rang in the sky. The 5 snow eagles swooped down from the sky and instantly dashed into the forest. After a while, the 5 snow eagles soared again. But this time, there was no one on the back of the snow eagles. It was obvious that the 5 experts of Snowhawk Hall had already arrived in the Great Yin Mountain. Gu Yong and the other 12 innate experts had ugly expressions on their faces. They originally thought that only the people of Snowhawk Hall had arrived, but it was obvious that there were other experts. From what that person said, he should be from Qingzhou. The muscular man wearing a black cloak said with a frown, "Most likely, he is from Qingzhou's Xiao Yao Palace." In the vast land of the 9 prefectures, although people spoke the same language, different places had different pronunciation. One could usually tell where they were from just by listening. "Xiao Yao Palace." Gu Yong said nothing, but his frown deepened. In the land of the 9 prefectures, Yangzhou and Yu Prefecture were the most prosperous. In terms of geographical size, the sparsely populated Rongzhou, Liangzhou, and Yinzhou should be counted. Rich places have a high population density, but the geographical area is smaller. On the other hand, Those with large geographical areas were sparsely populated. Yu Prefecture of Hushaoyu, with the Xiaoyao Palace in Qingzhou, had the advantage of having a large population. Although Qingzhou had 18 counties, it wasn't completely unified. Yu Qingzhou of Prefecture of County, of Qingzhou of Sea of County, Dragon Gu of Yu King of Hu of White. At this moment, many figures appeared in the distance. Some of them were dressed in purple robes, some were wearing scale armor, and some were carrying longbows, quiver, or felt hats. There were a total of 16 of them. These mountain, 16 Hawk Dragon of Dragon Mountain. Although there were a large number of silver dragon soldiers behind Gu Yong and the others, the other party only had 16 people walking side by side, yet they had an imposing manner that was like a surging wave. Even the shooting Sun God Mountain is here. Gu Yong and the other 12 inborn experts were having a headache. Yangzhou was located in the southeast, Qingzhou was in the east, and Yinzhou was in the south. Therefore, the shooting Sun God Mountain and Xiaoyao Palace arrived easily. Island Lord Gu, Qinghu Island is really lucky to be able to obtain Emperor Yu's treasure map. Now, he was excavating Emperor Yu's treasure in the Great Yin Mountain. However, Emperor Yu's treasure shouldn't be so easy to obtain. The Xiaoyao Palace, the shooting Sun God Mountain, and the Snow Eagle sect are very willing to help. I believe that if we work together, it will be much easier to find the treasures. The purple-cloaked, scholarly man, who was the leader of Xiaoyao Palace, laughed. From his words, he seemed to be certain that Qinghu Island had Emperor Yu's treasure map. Each sect sent 5 or 6 people, so the 3 sects added up to 16 people. This was the foundation of a large sect. For example, the Gue Yuan sect would not be willing to send 5 or 6 innate rankers. Moreover, the entire sect only had 4 innate rankers. Emperor Yu's treasure? Gu Yong smiled and said, Elder Sure, where did you get this news? Emperor Yu's treasure has been passed down for thousands of years. But has anyone ever excavated Emperor Yu's treasure? This is just a rumor. It's probably because Qinghu Island annihilated Tai E Hall a few days ago, which caused some of them to be resentful and purposely spread this news. As soon as he finished speaking, Island Lord Gu, a deep voice came from the mouth of a skinny, bald man of the shooting Sun God Mountain. His gaze was as sharp as a knife. In just one night, the shooting Sun God Mountain, Xiaoyao Palace, and Snow Eagle Hall have all arrived. Isn't it great if we work together to obtain the treasure? If the Ying family, Mani Temple, and Emperor Yu's Hall have also arrived, then, Island Lord Gu, you can't be too greedy. If you eat too much, you will be stuffed to death. The barbaric accent of Yinzhou made the words of the honorable expert of the shooting Sun God Mountain sound even more overbearing. Oomph. Gu Yong's face darkened. Zhao Danshan, who was at the side, also sneered and looked at the crowd. What Qinghu Island does is none of your business. If you think that Emperor Yu's treasure is in the Great Yin Mountain, you can search for it yourselves. Qinghu Island will not interfere. However, I advise you not to interfere with Qinghu Island's business. Zhao Danshan was an expert ranked 10th on the heavenly ranking. Island Lord Gu, the silver-haired, silver-robed elder with a hooked nose squinted his eyes and said, If you guys didn't excavate Emperor Yu's treasure, do you dare to let us into the military camp of Qinghu Island to have a look? Sorry, but Qinghu Island will not accompany you, Gu Yong said with a darkened face. He flicked his sleeves and turned to leave. The other 11 experts of Qinghu Island also turned and left with Gu Yong, ignoring the men of the shooting Sun God Mountain, Xiaoyao Palace, and Snow Eagle Hall. Hua! The silver dragon soldiers who stood at the front were all wearing heavy armor and holding long spears. They were ready for battle. The 16 innate experts of the shooting Sun God Mountain, Xiaoyao Palace, and Snow Eagle Hall looked at each other. Looks like Emperor Yu's treasure is real. If we force our way in, Gu Yong will obviously fight with us at the cost of the lives of the silver dragon soldiers. Let's retreat first. The silver-haired, silver-robed elder with a felt hat said, Innate rankers weren't invincible. Although it was said that innate rankers could seize the commander of an army, although innate experts could seize the commander of an army, it still depended on what kind of army it was. The Silver Dragon soldiers were all wearing heavy armor. Even Tung Yongfan, who had over 4,000 gene of strength, couldn't pierce through the heavy armor with his long spear. It could be seen how hard it was to pierce through heavy armor. An innate rancor could kill a heavily armored soldier. However, piercing through heavy armor and killing people would consume a lot of innate true origin. Once the great army surrounded them, the 16 innate experts would consume a lot of innate true origin. If they didn't want to fight, it wouldn't be hard for them to escape. However, if they didn't escape and wanted to force their way in, they would consume all their innate true origin and fall into a dangerous situation. The 16 innate experts of the 3 great forces and the 12 innate experts of Qinghu Island were 20 to 30 zhang away from each other. Their voices echoed into the bottomless pit. At the bottom of the bottomless pit, when it reached the bottom, although it was weaker, Tung Qingshan could still hear it clearly. Qinghu Island is really ruthless. They would rather fight than lower their heads. However, Gu Yong must have calculated that the other side wouldn't act rashly if they weren't confident. Tung Qingshan smiled coldly. Gu Yong, you want to get Emperor Yu's treasure without anyone bothering you? Dream on. I'll add fuel to the fire. Others didn't know the way to the bottom of the lake, but Tung Qingshan did. Qinghu Island's garrison wasn't the only bottomless pit. Phew! Tung Qingshan immediately turned around and entered the lake again. This time, Tung Qingshan quickly swam towards the bottomless pit that he had entered before. In the numerous caves beside the waterway of the bottomless pit, Tung Yongfan leaned against the wall of the cave and waited silently. He had been waiting here for an hour since he saw a demonic beast pass by. I can't waste any more time. Tung Yongfan felt dizzy again. It was obvious that he had lost too much blood and hadn't eaten. An hour. That demonic beast should have reached another place by now. Tung Yongfan clenched his teeth and immediately moved forward quietly. Soon he was out of the cave. Splash! The sound of water was very soft. Tung Yongfan's body was submerged in the water up to his neck. Actually, Tung Yongfan couldn't control his lower body. The water was deep enough to submerge him. However, he held onto the wall and moved forward slowly with his powerful hands. The sound of water was very soft. He was afraid that the demonic beast would be attracted. I'll reach the bottom of the bottomless pit in another 20 zhang. Tung Yongfan clenched his teeth and moved forward slowly. Suddenly, a fishy smell came. Tung Yongfan stopped in shock. Because of the dark environment, the distance he could see was limited. If it found me, it would have already attacked. Tung Yongfan felt dizzy, obviously reminding him that his body couldn't hold on for long. I must go back. I must. Long. Tung Yongfan clenched his teeth and took the risk to move forward slowly. The cold water caused pain to the wounds on his body. Tung Yongfan stared straight ahead. The fishy smell was getting thicker and thicker. Tung Yongfan's pupils shrank. He could already see the demonic beast. The Darksteel centipede was lying at the entrance of the cave, 1 zhang away, resting with its eyes closed. I must go back. I must. Tung Yongfan swallowed and moved forward even more slowly. He was afraid that he would make any noise and wake the demonic beast up. 1 qi, 3 qi. The position of the cave entrance was already parallel to Tung Yongfan. Tung Yongfan was still moving forward slowly, but his eyes were constantly staring at the demonic beast. The distance between them gradually increased. 1 zhang, 2 zhang, 3 zhang. In the dark environment, he could no longer see the demonic beast. Lan, wait for me. Tung Yongfan was slightly excited. However, he didn't dare to be careless. He couldn't see the Darksteel centipede, but in the dark environment, the Darksteel centipede could easily see him from a distance of several zhang. However, as long as he was careful, the movement would be smaller and it wouldn't be easy to be discovered. Forward, forward. His eyes could already see the faint light at the bottom of the cave. Corpses. Tung Yongfan could already see the corpses of the Silver Dragon soldiers beside him. Because the water was shallow, the depth of the corpses could only be seen clearly. Tung Yongfan's excited expression suddenly froze. About 5 zhang in front of him, a pair of white eyes was staring at him. It was a darksteel centipede. Because the waterway was straight, this darksteel centipede had already seen Tung Yongfan the moment he entered the waterway. However, when it saw Tung Yongfan's cautious appearance, it waited with interest. As a demonic beast, the darksteel centipede was also intelligent. It wanted to see the expression of this cautious human who was full of hope and then despair in the end. How could this be? Tung Yongfan was so anxious that sweat instantly appeared on his forehead. Roar. The darksteel centipede let out a soft roar. Immediately, about 10 zhang behind Tung Yongfan, the resting darksteel centipede also woke up. It opened its eyes and looked in the direction of the roar. Roar. The darksteel centipede immediately slid down the cave and swam into the water. The one behind, Tung Yongfan, was extremely anxious. He didn't expect that he would actually end up like this after persisting until now. Finally, the darksteel centipede that swam over appeared in Tung Yongfan's sight. Fortunately, he was close to the bottom of the cave, and there was a faint light, so he could clearly see 5 zhang ahead. One in front and one behind. The 2 darksteel centipedes were also around 5 zhang away from Tung Yongfan. The 2 darksteel centipedes just stared at Tung Yongfan. Roar, roar. The 2 darksteel centipedes growled at each other, as if they were communicating something. Tung Yongfan's face was slightly pale. He stared at both sides, but his hands were still in the water. Suddenly, the 2 darksteel centipedes jumped out of the water at the same time and pounced towards Tung Yongfan. Die! Tung Yongfan's face was ferocious as he roared. With both hands, he actually grabbed a section of the heavily armored corpse and threw it to both sides. His hands were always ready to throw the heavily armored corpse. With the strength of his arms, the 2 sections of the corpse suddenly smashed towards the 2 darksteel centipedes. Bang! The 2 darksteel centipedes easily knocked the corpse away. Die! A faint voice also traveled to the bottom of the water. Tung Shan, who was still swimming at the bottom of the water, instantly changed his expression. Boom! His entire body suddenly erupted with a fiery red wave of energy, and his speed instantly increased by several times. Like an arrow, he instantly traveled a distance of over 10 zhang. Why? A figure suddenly emerged from the edge of the water like a bolt of lightning. Father! Tung Shan's body suddenly expanded again, and the blue veins on his forehead bulged like earthworms. His body even reached a height of 8 qi. He was like a human-shaped monster violently rushing into the water, causing the water to tremble. Lon, I'm leaving first. Tung Yongfan's face was ferocious as he roared and punched the darksteel centipede that was pouncing towards him. The smell of blood pervaded the air, and the pair of fangs had already arrived. Father! A loud shout came, causing Tung Yongfan's heart to tremble. Qingshan! Tung Yongfan turned his head and saw a tall figure rapidly pouncing towards him with a speed that caused the water to tremble. Xiao! Xiao! 2 rays of cold light shot over and instantly pierced through the heads of the 2 darksteel centipedes. Just as the flying daggers arrived, almost at the same time, the devil-like figure had already arrived. The 2 darksteel centipedes' bodies exploded with a bang. Father! A trembling voice with a hint of sobbing sounded. Update completed. October has passed, and November will begin. Tomato will work hard to write the plot of every chapter. If everyone thinks that Tomato's novel will bring you happiness. In the new month, everyone, please support Tomato. Give your monthly votes to Tomato. Click on the Recommend Monthly Votes to support author below. Thank you. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.